Hey everyone, welcome to FanFic Canon. Thanks for hitting play. I'm thrilled to bring this fan-made story to life for you. If you enjoy the ride and want more narrated fanfics, smash, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want audiobook of a novel of your choice, join my Patreon. Request any title that's freely available online, and I'll produce a full narration just for you. Now, let's dive into today's adventure.
Jacob woke up early the next morning and went to check on Stiles. He pushed open the guest room door and froze. Stiles was wrapped around a pillow, hugging it, grinding on it, and kissing it while mumbling nonsense. Jacob stared for a beat, then quietly pulled out his phone and hit record. After a few very generous seconds of footage, he slipped the phone away, walked over, and smacked Stiles on the back of the head. "Wake up, Stiles." Stiles jerked upright, eyes unfocused. "Jacob, what are you doing here?" He looked around in a panic. "Wait, where's the girl I was just kissing?" Jacob pointed at the pillow. "You mean her?" Stiles blinked, then slowly turned to look. "What? You were kissing the pillow," Jacob said dryly. "And if I hadn't woken you up, that poor thing was about to experience way more than a kiss." Stiles groaned and collapsed back onto the bed. "Did you have to wake me up and ruin the best dream I've had in weeks?" "Get up," Jacob said. "We're going to the backyard to spar. You need to get a handle on your new strength." Stiles sat up fast. "What? Spar with you?" "Absolutely not. I saw what you did to Scott when you trained him." Jacob didn't bother arguing. He grabbed Stiles by the back of the neck and started dragging him toward the door. "Stop complaining," Jacob said. "You've got rapid healing now. Even if I beat you half to death, you'll be fine." "Actually, I don't even need your help," Stiles protested, heels digging into the floor. "I'm already in control of my strength. Perfectly in control. Zero accidents. Look at this control." Jacob kept moving. Stiles whined the whole way. An hour later, Stiles was spread out on the grass, bruised, panting, and staring at the sky like it had personally betrayed him. His injuries were already knitting back together. Jacob stood over him with a smirk. "Training complete. You're now in full control. No need to thank me." "Thank you," Stiles wheezed. "I don't want to thank you. I want to fight you." Jacob's grin turned sharp. "You know what? Sounds like you need another round." Stiles shot upright. "Nope. No, I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you very much for your generous and painful guidance." Jacob laughed and headed back toward the house. "Come on. We've got school." Stiles caught up, walking at his side. "By the way, thanks for the potion. Seriously, now I can actually survive things. Or at least run away without being dead weight to you and Scott." "You're welcome," Jacob said easily. "So, how much did that potion cost?" Jacob glanced at him. "You planning to pay me back?" "Nope," Stiles said without hesitation. "I just know anything that's strong is stupidly expensive, and I'm very poor." "Then why ask?" "Curiosity," Stiles shrugged. Jacob sighed. "You don't need to know the price. I gave it to you because we're friends. That's it." Stiles smirked, then fluttered his eyelashes and switched to a high-pitched voice. "I'm so touched. I could kiss you right now." Jacob visibly shuddered, goosebumps rising on his arms. "Ugh, that was disgusting, Stiles." He kicked him away. "I'm never giving you anything again, you creep." Stiles rolled on the ground laughing, then scrambled up and latched onto Jacob's leg. "I was kidding. Don't say that. If you get anything good in the future, please remember me." Jacob kicked him off again. "Stay away from me." He went inside to shower, leaving Stiles grinning to himself as he headed for the guest bathroom. After breakfast, they stepped out of the mansion. Stiles stopped dead when he saw the sleek silver car in the driveway. "When did you get this?" he asked, circling it slowly. "2 days ago," Jacob said. Stiles eyed the hood ornament. "Is this a Rolls-Royce Ghost? Or Phantom?" "Ghost? You bought a $250,000 car?" Stiles gaped. "Are you driving this to school?" "For now, no. I'll take the Camaro." "You sure? Pulling up in this would make you insanely popular." "I don't care about popularity, Stiles. And even without the car, I'm already popular." Stiles groaned. "Unfortunately true. Every girl in school likes you, and most of the guys want to punch you." Jacob chuckled. "If you want, you can drive it to school." Stiles backed away instantly. "Nope. I'll stick with my Jeep. It rattles, but it's honest." They each climbed into their own cars and headed for school. When they arrived, they met up with Scott, Allison, and Lydia in the parking lot. Stiles grinned and held out his hand to Scott. Scott took it. Stiles squeezed. At first, Scott smirked. Then his expression shifted as Stiles' grip tightened. His eyes glowed faintly as his body almost shifted just to keep his hand from being crushed. What the hell? Scott yanked his hand back and shook it out. What was that? Stiles smirked. Conclusion: if you don't shift, I'm stronger than you. Really? Lydia asked, raising a brow. Didn't Jay tell you? Allison said, we're as strong as betas when they're fully shifted. So yeah, Stiles is stronger than Scott in his normal state. Scott looked between them, confused. Wait. Why is Stiles suddenly strong? And are you two the same? He pointed at Allison and Lydia. Stiles grinned proudly. Jacob gave us a magical potion. Now we're as strong as you. 0 side effects. Scott just stared at him. That's not fair. I get cursed with furry rage management issues, and you 3 get the strength without the panic attacks. Jacob clapped Scott on the back. Look on the bright side. Now you can beat Stiles up all you want, and he'll heal fast. Scott frowned. He's as strong as me now. I'm not sure I can beat him. You've got claws. He doesn't, Jacob said. And when you become an alpha, you'll leave him in the dust anyway. Scott went quiet. Yeah, but to become an alpha, I have to kill one. There's another way, Jacob said. Allison tilted her head. What do you mean? There's a rare type of alpha that doesn't steal or kill for power. He becomes an alpha through his own will. They're called true alphas. Jacob put a hand on Scott's shoulder. And I think you can be one. Scott's eyes widened. I'll try. I really don't want to kill anyone. But that potion, could I drink it too? Jacob shook his head. No, it doesn't work on supernatural creatures. Of course it doesn't, Scott muttered. Jacob smirked. But I do have something you'll enjoy. He took out his phone and hit play. On the screen, Stiles appeared, hugging, kissing, and humping a pillow in his sleep. Scott went silent for half a second, then looked at Jacob. They both burst out laughing. You have to send me that, Scott wheezed. What's so funny? Stiles asked, immediately suspicious. Let me see. Nope, Jacob said, handing the phone to Allison and Lydia instead. The girls watched the video, then folded over laughing, tears in their eyes as they stared at Stiles. Stiles slowly turned to Scott. It's about me, isn't it? Scott was laughing too hard to speak. Yeah. Stiles squinted. What is it? Jacob beating me up this morning. Lydia shook her head, still chuckling. No, it's you passionately involved with a pillow. Stiles froze. What? No way. Show me. Lydia turned the phone so he could see. His face went bright red. I'm dead. This is social suicide. He glared at Jacob. I'm challenging you to a duel for this. Jacob cracked his knuckles. You sure? Stiles remembered the brutal training session in the backyard. On second thought, no. Out of sheer frustration, he smacked Scott on the back of the head. Scott growled and rounded on him. Sorry, Stiles blurted. I was just killing a fly. He lunged for the phone, but Lydia darted away and shoved it back to Jacob. Jacob slipped it into his pocket with a smug grin. Stiles grumbled, then smacked Scott again. Scott glared murderously. Oops. Stiles turned and sprinted toward the school entrance, with Scott chasing after him. A few days passed in a blur. Jacob took Lydia and Allison out on separate dates, hung out with Scott and Stiles, and spent his remaining free time gaming or relaxing at home. By Friday, during a free period, Jacob, Scott, Allison, Lydia, and Stiles were sitting on the bleachers by the lacrosse field, talking and laughing. That was when Derek and Peter walked up. Stiles frowned. Why are you two here? And why are you together? Allison glanced at Jacob. Who are they? Derek and Peter Hale, Jacob said calmly. Which one's the alpha? Allison asked. Peter gave a lazy smirk. That would be me, little huntress. Scott glared at Derek. Weren't you trying to kill him for murdering your sister? Derek shrugged. He lost control. Killed her by accident. Besides, he's stronger than me. Even if I wanted to kill him, I couldn't. Peter took a step forward, eyes on Scott. Scott, join me. Together, we'd be unstoppable. I can protect you. Scott narrowed his eyes. Protect me from what? You. From her family, Peter said, pointing at Allison. Scott's jaw tightened. I don't need your protection. And her family isn't hunting me. They're after the thing killing people in town. His gaze hardened. That's you. Peter shook his head slowly. I'm not a murderer, Scott. Those people deserved what they got. Let me show you. Before Scott could move, Peter blurred forward. His claws sank into the back of Scott's neck. Scott stiffened, eyes wide, trapped as Peter forced memories into his mind. A moment later, Peter pulled his claws free. Scott dropped to the ground, shaking. Scott, Stiles yelped. What did you do to him? Jacob stayed calm. Relax. He just shared a memory. After a few tense seconds, Scott sat up, breathing hard, eyes glowing as he stared at Peter with pure hatred. Peter smiled thinly. Now you see, that night they trapped us and burned us alive. Not all of us were shapeshifters. There were children there. Human children. They killed them too. His eyes flashed red. That's why I'll kill every last one of them. Jacob, sitting between Allison and Lydia, finally stood. He stretched lazily, then let his dragon aura pour out. He focused it on Peter, but Derek and Scott still felt it slam into them like a physical weight. Their muscles locked. Their hearts started racing. Jacob walked forward, aura coiled around Peter like a predator shadow. Peter swallowed hard, forcing a smirk. Inside, he cursed. He's even stronger than last time. Way stronger. I didn't hurt him, Peter said quickly. I simply invited him to join my pack and shared a memory. That's all. Jacob's eyes gleamed gold. You know what you did wrong, Peter? Peter instinctively stepped back. No. Jacob closed the distance and rested a hand on his shoulder. His voice went flat and cold. First, you showed up acting tough and didn't even acknowledge me. Second, and more importantly, I didn't like the way you were looking at Allison. Jacob's claws slid into Peter's shoulder. Peter growled and grabbed Jacob's wrist, trying to pry him off. Jacob's hand didn't move. Fur started to spread across Peter's skin as he began to shift. If you don't want to lose that shoulder, Jacob said calmly, I'd stop shifting. Peter froze, teeth bared, red eyes locked on Jacob. Jacob drove his claws deeper, forcing Peter down to one knee. Tell me, Peter, do you really think I wouldn't kill you? Peter stayed silent, but his defiance faltered. Jacob released his aura fully. The air around them turned suffocating. Peter's instincts screamed at him to submit. When he met Jacob's gaze, it felt like staring into something ancient and monstrous. Fear dug into him in a way that had nothing to do with being a werewolf. When you see me next time, Jacob said softly, you're going to act like the weak mutt you are. Peter's voice shook. What are you? Jacob's golden eyes sharpened. Something very dangerous, very vengeful, very ruthless when provoked. But most of all, I'm proud. When you ignored me, you bruised that pride. He smirked. This is your punishment. Electricity crackled down Jacob's arm and into his claws. It punched through Peter's body in a violent wave. Peter screamed as his muscles spasmed and smoke escaped his mouth. With one last jolt, Jacob let go. Peter hit the ground, twitching, small wisps of smoke rising off him. Stiles stared eyes wide. That was awesome. He shook Scott's shoulder. Did you see that? Jacob just used lightning magic. Scott didn't respond. He was trembling. Scott, Stiles asked, suddenly uneasy. What's wrong with you? Lydia crossed her arms. You just noticed? Both Scott and Derek are terrified. Stiles looked at Derek and froze. Derek was shaking, eyes glued to Jacob like he'd just watched the world end. Scott, snap out of it. Stiles slapped his cheek lightly. Scott flinched, then blinked back to himself, still shaking. You guys don't feel it, but Jacob is terrifying right now. I can't stop my body from shaking. Jacob exhaled and reeled his aura back in, scratching the back of his head. Sorry. Peter, ignoring me, got under my skin. I might have overdone it. The weight in the air disappeared. Scott let out a shaky breath. What was that? You suddenly turned into pure nightmare. You did in the woods too, when you killed that thing. That was my aura, Jacob said. You'll be able to use yours one day when you're strong enough. Scott frowned. Aura. Jacob thought for a second. Think of it as invisible energy leaking off you. You can release it to intimidate or scare weaker creatures. The stronger you get, the stronger your aura becomes. So, I have one too? Scott asked. Of course, Jacob said. When you first turned, did animals act weird around you? Scott's eyes widened. Yeah. When I went into the clinic after I was bitten, every dog and cat freaked out. But later, they calmed down. Then you probably started suppressing your aura without realizing it, Jacob said. When it grows, it can paralyze enemies with fear. Sometimes even shatter glass. Maybe more. Stiles cut in. Also, important detail, you didn't tell us you can use lightning magic. Jacob smirked. I can do more than that. Stiles leaned in. What else can you do? Jacob shook his head. Another time, he turned and nudged Peter with his foot. Stop faking it. Get up and tell me why you're here. Peter groaned, pushed himself to his feet, and brushed off his clothes. He didn't even try to glare this time. He forced a neutral smile instead. I'm here for a teacher. Adrian Harris, he said. He knows who orchestrated the fire that burned my family. Jacob raised a brow. Harris, huh? Fine. Go. Just don't make it too bloody when you kill him. Peter squinted. You're not going to stop me? Nope, Jacob said. I hate that guy. Allison frowned. Jay, you can't just let him kill Harris. Stiles nodded. Yeah, Harris is a jerk, but he doesn't deserve to get ripped apart. Jacob sighed. Fine. Peter, interrogate him, then scare him enough that he runs far away from Beacon Hills and never comes back. Peter smirked. Deal. I'll be back after school. He turned and walked away. Derek stayed a moment longer, watching Jacob with narrowed eyes. Jacob could help me kill Peter, help me become an alpha, Derek thought. But I already owe him my life. If I want his help, I'll need something to offer him. He gave a stiff nod to the group, then followed Peter. For now, I'll use Peter to get my revenge first. Once they were gone, Jacob's gaze shifted to the side. He spotted Jackson peeking from behind a wall. Jackson's eyes widened. He ducked out of sight. Jacob just smirked and let it go. He sat back down between Allison and Lydia. By the way, I bought something interesting for my crazy scientist friend again. Allison raised an eyebrow. Did he invent something new? What is it? Jacob shook his head. No, this time it's something old. A summoning scroll he found by accident and sold to me. Stiles leaned forward. What does it summon? Jacob shrugged. No idea. We'll find out tomorrow. Stiles blinked. What if you summon something evil? Then I'll kill it, Jacob said simply. And what if you can't? Stiles shot back. Jacob rolled his eyes. And what if you shut up? If you're scared, don't come. Stiles crossed his arms. I'm absolutely coming. I am not missing real-life summoning magic. He studied Jacob for a moment, then narrowed his eyes. You know exactly what you are, don't you? Jacob was quiet for a beat, then nodded. Yeah, I know. Then why not tell us? Stiles asked. Because there are creatures who can read memories, Jacob said. If I tell you and someone digs it out of your head, they'll do whatever it takes to hunt me down or capture me. And I'm not strong enough to deal with that yet. Stiles held his gaze, then nodded slowly. Okay, you can tell us when you're ready. Saturday morning, Jacob woke up around 9. After a quick shower, he headed to the kitchen and started unloading breakfast from his pocket dimension. Croissants, cinnamon rolls, brownies, chocolate chip cookies. He set everything out in neat rows on the table. Then he scrambled some eggs, made hot chocolate milk, and finally sat down to wait for Allison, Lydia, Scott, and Stiles. While he waited, he called out in his mind, System sign-in. Daily sign-in successful. Reward obtained. $5. Century eggs times 30. Harley Quinn's panties. Still warm, she just took them off. Jacob stared at the list. $5, whatever. Money is money. Century eggs, those nasty black Chinese eggs. Absolutely not. Then he read the last line. His face went flat. Without a word, he got up, walked out to the backyard, reached into his dimensional pocket with magic instead of his hands, yanked out Harley Quinn's panties, and incinerated them in the air before they even hit the ground. Disgusting, he muttered. He thought of the century eggs and sighed. Might as well get rid of those too. He pulled them out, burned all 30 in one go, then went back inside and sat at the table again, scrolling casually through his phone like nothing had happened. About half an hour later, Lydia and Allison pulled up in Lydia's car, and Stiles and Scott arrived in the Jeep. Allison opened the gate, let both cars in, then Scott closed it behind them. Allison was the first into the mansion. She walked straight to the kitchen, smiled, and said, "Good morning," before leaning in to kiss Jacob. She was about to sit beside him when Jacob smirked, grabbed her by the waist, and pulled her onto his lap. They started making out, only stopping when they heard footsteps and voices entering the kitchen. Allison quickly slid off his lap and sat properly next to him, cheeks flushed. Lydia narrowed her eyes at her, but didn't comment. She just walked over to Jacob, gave him a slow, deliberate kiss of her own, then took the seat on his other side. "Morning," Stiles and Scott said as they walked in and sat across from them. "All right, let's eat." "I'm starving," Jacob said, already reaching for food. "I'm honestly surprised you waited for us," Stiles said. "I wasn't waiting for you idiots," Jacob replied through a mouthful. "I was waiting for my ladies. In a perfect world, you and Scott would have shown up after we were done." "That's hurtful," Stiles said dramatically. "Scott, let's not eat his food." Scott gave him a flat look. "I'm hungry. You dragged me out before breakfast. If you don't want to eat, that's your problem." "I'm eating." He immediately grabbed a plate. Stiles huffed, grabbed a brownie anyway, shoved it into his mouth, and said around it, "Man, you have no dignity." Says the guy who swore he wasn't going to eat Jacob's food and is now inhaling his brownies, Lydia said. Stiles shrugged. "Everybody knows I'm shameless." He got up, went to the fridge, and took out a few bottles of juice. "Anyone want juice?" "Orange. No added sugar," Lydia said. "Same," Allison added. Stiles handed them their bottles, sat back down, and started properly digging in. By the time they finished, most of the food was gone, mostly thanks to Jacob. Once the kitchen was cleaned up, Stiles leaned back with a grin. "So, can we finally see this summoning magic now?" Jacob smirked. "Yeah, wait here, I'll grab the scroll." He ran upstairs, pulled the summoning scroll from his pocket dimension, and came back down holding it. "All right, backyard." As they walked out, Allison glanced at him. "By the way, Jay, what if you summon something dangerous?" Jacob smirked. "Relax. Whatever I summon will be bound to me. The scroll works like a contract between me and the summoned being." Allison let out a breath. "Okay, that makes me feel better." "So," Stiles said, rubbing his hands together, "what do you guys think it's going to summon?" "I just hope it's nothing creepy," Lydia muttered. "Creepy?" Stiles perked up. "It could be a demon, or some giant monster, or a fairy." Allison blinked. "A fairy?" "Yeah, tiny little human-looking thing. Wings, sparkly dust, magical chaos." Scott frowned. "Do those even exist?" Stiles scoffed. "You're a werewolf, Scott, and you're worried about whether fairies are real." He leaned toward Allison and Lydia, eyes gleaming. "But what if Jacob summons a female demon famous for her beauty and charm? The kind that seduces men, controls them. A succubus." Lydia's eyes narrowed. "Jay, you're not summoning a succubus, right?" Jacob raised an eyebrow. "I don't know." Allison crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes too. "Are you sure you don't know?" "Yes," Jacob said firmly. "I'm sure. And it's probably not a succubus." Then he turned and glared at Stiles. "What I do know is that whatever comes out, I'm ordering it to attack you first." Stiles raised his hands. "Hey, that's uncalled for. I was just theorizing." Jacob ignored him. Once they reached the backyard, he stepped ahead of them and turned back. "All right, ready?" Stiles lit up. "Yes, but one last time, please don't order it to attack me." Jacob smirked, then asked in his mind system, "How do I use the scroll?" "Just open it and throw it on the ground while thinking of summoning Cogman." Jacob unrolled the scroll and tossed it forward, focusing on the name. It flashed to life, glowing as the air in front of them split open. A crack in space twisted and widened, white light bursting out so fiercely they all had to shield their eyes. When the crack sealed and the light died, two things stood where the tear had been. The first was a sleek, human-shaped robot about 1.6 meters tall with glowing blue eyes. The second was a silver Aston Martin DB9. Stiles' jaw dropped. It's a freaking robot." "Not just a robot," Jacob said. "That's a transformer." Stiles spun toward him. "A transformer? Like Optimus Prime?" "Bumblebee." "Exactly. His name is Cogman," Jacob said. "He's a Cybertronian, an autonomous robotic life form. The info just popped into my head when I summoned him. Stiles just stood there, stunned. Allison's eyes went wide. Wait, if Transformers are real, is there going to be some kind of invasion like in the movies? Jacob shook his head. No, he came from another universe. As far as I know, he's the only one here. Let me talk to him first. Jacob stepped forward. Hey, Cogman, can you understand me? The robot, who had been staring blankly ahead, snapped to attention. His blue eyes focused on Jacob and the others, then locked onto Jacob alone. When he spoke, it was with a crisp British accent. You must be Jacob Alexander, my new master. That's me, Jacob said. Cogman bowed politely. Cogman, at your service, sir. Don't call me my lord, Jacob said with a frown. Just Jacob, or sir is fine. Very well, sir, Cogman replied with a nod. Jacob pointed at the Aston Martin. And what's with the car? Cogman puffed his metal chest. My better 3/4. A necessary division, sir, to execute the proper duties of a butler. Tea service, silver polishing, discreet corpse disposal. I require a compact and agile body. But a true butler must also excel in high-speed pursuits, dramatic entrances, and strategic vehicular homicide. The car is the rest of my body, sir. Think of it as my formal attire. Jacob looked at the DB9 again. So you can merge with it and turn into a full-size Transformer? Yes, sir. Jacob grinned. Do it. I want to see. As you wish. Cogman walked to the car. His parts began shifting, unfolding, and locking into place as his body merged with the Aston Martin. Metal plates rotated, gears clicked and whirred until, in seconds, an 8-meter-tall Transformer loomed over them. Jacob, Stiles, and Scott all yelled at once, "Cool!" Allison and Lydia just stared, speechless. Jacob stepped forward, excited. Cogman, punch me. Cogman tilted his head. I beg your pardon, sir? Punch me. Don't worry. I'm not as fragile as the humans from your world. As you wish. Cogman lifted a massive fist and drove it forward, holding back most of his strength. Jacob met it head-on. His own fist, now covered in black dragon scales, crashed into Cogman's knuckles. To Cogman's surprise, he stumbled back several steps, struggling to keep his balance. Jacob's strength wasn't normal. Jacob smirked. No holding back this time. Use your full strength. Even if I get hurt, I'll heal. His arm fully scaled over as he lunged forward and swung again. This time Cogman didn't restrain himself. Their fists collided, and the impact exploded into a shockwave that rattled the backyard. Jacob was launched like a projectile. He slammed straight into Stiles, and both of them tumbled across the ground until a tree finally stopped them. Jacob groaned, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He's really strong. His arm shifted back to normal as he sat up, only to hear Stiles wheezing under him. Get off me, Stiles coughed. Jacob stood and looked down. Stiles' face was half buried in dirt, blood running from his nose. Jacob chuckled. Thanks for catching me, man. If you weren't there, I'd probably still be rolling. Stiles glared. I didn't catch you. You crashed into me. Jacob patted his shoulder. Details. He walked back toward the others. Allison and Lydia rushed over, eyes scanning him. Allison saw the blood and frowned. Are you okay? She asked softly. Jacob wiped his mouth and smirked. I'm fine. Lydia crossed her arms. Why would you tell a giant robot to punch you? I wanted to see how strong a Transformer really is. By then, Cogman had separated from the car again and returned to his smaller form. He hurried over. Sir, are you injured? I'm good, Jacob said. You're strong. But one day, I'll be stronger than you. I look forward to that day, sir, Cogman replied. Jacob asked, compared to your full form, how strong is this smaller body? Cogman shook his head. The full form is significantly stronger. Even like this, however, I'm still stronger than you, sir. Jacob chuckled. I doubt it. Even at full size, I could kill you if I wanted. Cogman replied. I only used physical strength, sir. I did not use my weapons. I can move fast enough that you'd barely be able to track me, Jacob said. He lifted his hand. Lightning crackled around it, forming into a bright, crackling orb the size of a basketball. And I didn't use all my abilities. I didn't even fully transform. Cogman tilted his head. Are all humans in this world like you, sir? Jacob shook his head. No, but some are close. In this world, myths are real. I'll explain more later. Stiles stumbled over, still grumbling. Yep, nobody cares about poor Stiles. Lydia rolled her eyes. You're fine. I am, Stiles said dramatically, but a little concern would be nice. I did cushion your boyfriend's landing. Scott smirked and patted his shoulder. You okay, man? Stiles huffed. Now you ask. Jacob chuckled and turned to Cogman. This is Allison Argent, and this is Lydia Martin, he said, nodding to each side. Both my girlfriends, the ladies of the house. Cogman straightened and gave them a gracious bow. An honor to meet you, Madam Allison, and an honor to meet you, Madam Lydia. Jacob pointed at Scott. This is my friend Scott. Cogman nodded politely, then looked at Stiles. And him, sir. Jacob's smile turned mischievous. That's Stiles. He's a friend too, and I may have mentioned that whatever I summoned would attack him first. So you can educate him a little. Cogman studied Stiles. Is he like you, sir? He's not, Jacob said. But he's not fully normal anymore either. You can beat him up. He'll heal in minutes. Stiles' eyes widened. Hold on. Cogman lunged. Stiles tried to defend himself, but Cogman moved like a trained assassin. In seconds, Stiles was on the ground with a metal hand clamped around his throat. Cogman, that's enough, Jacob said. Cogman didn't loosen his grip. If I were to tear his head off, sir, would he still heal? Jacob's face went blank. No, he would not. Let him go. Stiles choked. Let me go, you psycho robot. Cogman's head rotated a full 360 degrees as he sneered down at him. I very much want to crush your windpipe. Jacob burst out laughing. Let him go, Cogman. Take your car body to the garage. Then come inside so we can talk. Cogman sighed, disappointed, but released Stiles. Stiles scrambled to his feet and darted behind Scott. Jacob, that maniac you summoned is a psychopath. Send him back. Stiles yelled. Cogman shot him a look and tensed, ready to move again. Cogman, Jacob said sharply. Go do what I told you. Cogman narrowed his glowing eyes at Stiles. Watch yourself. You're on my list now. He climbed into the Aston Martin and drove off toward the garage. The group stood there for a moment. Allison finally turned to Jacob. Is it really safe to keep him around? Jacob smirked. Don't worry. He's bound to me. He won't hurt anyone unless I say so. Or unless they're an enemy. He glanced at the house. Come on, let's go inside. Jacob, Allison, Lydia, Scott, and Stiles returned inside the mansion and settled in the living room. A moment later, Cogman followed them. Jacob looked at him and asked, Cogman, can you take the appearance of a human? I've seen some Transformers do it in the movies. Cogman said, Yes, sir, I can, but I would need to purchase certain materials to create a prosthetic skin using nanotechnology. That way, the skin would be capable of healing, and I could freely transform between a human form and my original one. How expensive are those materials? Jacob asked. About $200,000, sir. Jacob nodded. All right, I'll give you the money so you can make it. Having a human form will make it easier for you to move around without freaking people out. Cogman tilted his head. Understood, sir. But should I take the form of a man or a woman? Allison raised her hands immediately. No, don't you dare turn into a woman. Lydia quickly added, narrowing her eyes. Yeah, the last thing I need is to share Jacob with some female robot. Jacob gave them both a look and chuckled. Girls, come on. I'm a pervert, sure, but not that much of a pervert. Besides, Cogman is a man. Even if he looked like a woman, I'd still think of him as a man. Doesn't matter, Allison said firmly. I don't want him looking like a woman. Me neither, Lydia agreed. Jacob said with a smirk. You heard them, Cogman. Take the form of an old man. And although I wouldn't be attracted to you if you turn into a woman, I wouldn't recommend it anyway. Cogman blinked. May I ask why, sir? Jacob's smirk widened. Because we have a friend who lusts after everything. He even humps and kisses pillows. If you look like a woman, he'd definitely try to sleep with you. Stiles' face went beet red as Scott, Allison, and Lydia burst out laughing. Cogman slowly turned his glowing eyes toward Stiles. It's you, isn't it? Stiles waved his arms defensively. Don't listen to his nonsense. I was asleep, dreaming about a girl, that's all, Cogman muttered. In cases like this, I've learned it's best to be safe than sorry. Hey. What's that supposed to mean, you crazy robot? Stiles shouted. Without warning, Cogman tackled Stiles off the couch, pinning him down with a knee to his chest. One of Cogman's hands shifted into a pair of giant scissors, snapping open and shut menacingly. He glanced at Jacob. If I castrate him, sir, he wouldn't heal from that, would he? Jacob burst out laughing. No, he would not. Get off me, you psycho. Stiles yelled, struggling. Cogman's scissor hand clicked again. Then should I do it, sir? That way he won't try to sleep with me. And he won't hump your furniture when he visits, either. Jacob grinned. Don't. Cogman's head rotated a full 360 degrees as he muttered. But I so very much want to hurt him, sir. Get off him. Jacob shook his head, still smiling. And don't worry. I'm sure plenty of idiots will attack me in the future. You can have all the fun you want with them. Cogman reluctantly let Stiles go. Stiles scrambled to his feet, glaring. Stay away from me, you psychopath. Cogman snapped into a boxing stance, bouncing lightly on his feet and punching the air. What's wrong? You want to fight? Let's go, I'm ready. Jacob sighed. That's enough, Cogman. Stiles is my friend. Be nice to him. Cogman lowered his fists. Fine, sir. I'll try. But I really don't like him. I don't like you either. Stiles shot back. I think you've got a screw loose in that brain of yours. Enough, you two. Jacob cut in before it escalated further. He leaned forward. Cogman said, Tell me, what year is it in the world I summoned you from? Cogman sat down on the couch. It is the year 2022, sir. Jacob said, You're a butler, right? So, did you have a master there? Cogman's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. No, my former master, Sir Edmund Burton, died a hero 5 years ago. After burying him, I remained in his castle alone. Allison's face softened. I'm sorry to hear that. It is quite all right, madam. Cogman replied calmly. Though it is always the hardest part of my duty as a butler to say goodbye to my masters, I have grown used to it after serving the aristocracy for 7 centuries. Scott blinked. 7 centuries? Wait, how old are you exactly? Cogman said. More than 10,000 years. I have long since lost count. But in truth, I am still young. Cybertronians live for millions of years, unlike you humans. Stiles leaned forward, eyes wide. Do you know Sam Witwicky? I never met him. Cogman admitted. But I know of him. What about Optimus Prime? Bumblebee? The rest of the Autobots? Stiles asked quickly. Cogman nodded. Yes, I fought at their side against the great deceiver, Quintessa, 5 years ago. Allison tilted her head. Did the Chicago War really happen in your world? Yes, it did. Cogman said gravely. Suddenly, both Jacob and Scott's noses twitched at the same time. Jacob frowned. What's that smell? Scott turned his head sharply toward Stiles. What's wrong with you? You smell bad. Jacob narrowed his eyes. That's the smell of anxiety. Stiles, what's going on? Stiles was visibly shaking, his face pale. If the world of those movies is real, then which ones are real and which ones aren't? Lydia raised a brow. Why do you even care? Why do I care? Stiles nearly shouted. Think about it. If movies based on comics are real worlds, like Cogman's, then we're screwed. Take Marvel, for example. They've already made Iron Man 1 and 2, Captain America, the Hulk, Spider-Man, and even Thor. And next year, they're releasing The Avengers. I read spoilers. It's about a war between the Avengers and the Chitauri army. Lydia rolled her eyes. So, you don't get it. Stiles snapped. The Chitauri serve Thanos. Do you know what Thanos did in the Infinity Gauntlet comics? He gathered the 6 Infinity Gems and wiped out half the universe's population. What if he's real? What if he comes to our world with the gauntlet and snaps us out of existence? His voice cracked. And what if Darkseid is real? Or one of the evil versions of Superman? Okay, Stiles, calm down. Jacob cut him off firmly. Even if those beings exist, they're not going to come here. But you brought Cogman here with a summoning scroll. What if there are more scrolls like that out there? Stiles countered. Jacob exhaled. Maybe it has something to do with what I am. Maybe the scroll was originally meant to summon a demon or some creature from this world, but because of me, it pulled Cogman in from another universe instead. Stiles swallowed hard. Then what exactly are you? Jacob sighed. Something people would try anything to kill or capture. So give me time, at least until I become an alpha. Then, I promise, I'll tell you what I am. Scott asked, do you need to kill an alpha to become one? Jacob shook his head. No, my strength is growing every day. Once I'm strong enough, I'll naturally become an alpha. He smirked. Now, while Stiles is anxious about the movie worlds being real, I'm actually excited. Scott raised a brow. Excited? Why? Jacob grinned. Because maybe one day, I'll find a way to visit those worlds. Go on adventures, meet all the beautiful girls. Lydia and Allison instantly pinched his sides from both directions. Jacob coughed. I mean, go on adventures with you girls, of course. Stiles said. Then you've got to take us with you, too. Jacob tilted his head. Didn't you just say you were terrified of those worlds a minute ago? Stiles said. I'm terrified. But come on, if there's a chance to visit those worlds, I'm not missing it. Jacob chuckled. Let's just hope there really is a way. But if there is, I'm definitely not going near Marvel or DC until I'm strong enough. Stiles muttered. Yeah, you've got a point there. Jacob suddenly straightened. Speaking of strength, let me show you one of my other abilities. He extended his hand, and a sleek handgun appeared out of thin air. Scott, Stiles, and even Cogman widened their eyes. Stiles nearly jumped out of his seat. How did you do that? Jacob smirked. Just like my lightning abilities, I can use spatial abilities. I have my own pocket dimension where I can store things. Stiles stared at him in disbelief. I really want to know what kind of creature you are. Jacob ignored him, putting the gun away. He then pulled out a box filled with 30 ribeye Wagyu steaks and handed it to Cogman. Here, make us lunch. Cogman opened the box, his glowing eyes brightening. Oh, Wagyu steaks. Delightful. How many shall I prepare, sir? Cook 15. Jacob said. Give me the rest, so I can put them back in my dimension to keep them fresh. Cogman tilted his head. 15, sir. Then his eyes shifted to Stiles. Don't look at me, Stiles said quickly, pointing at Jacob. He's the one who eats like a black hole. Jacob grinned. Correct. Now go cook the steaks. Make some side dishes, too. The fridge is stocked, and there's a cold room full of ingredients. Understood, sir. Cogman stood, took the steaks, and marched off toward the kitchen. Jacob stored the remaining steaks back into his dimension, then caught Stiles staring at him. What? Stiles asked bluntly. How many abilities do you have? Jacob smirked. A few more, but I'm not telling you. Gotta keep some mystery alive. They hung out in the living room, chatting about movie worlds until Cogman called them for lunch. After feasting, they returned to the living room. Cogman joined them once he'd cleaned the kitchen. Jacob reached into his pocket dimension, pulled out a bank card, and handed it to him. Here, there's $2 million on this card. Order the materials you need for your synthetic skin. Then invest the rest. Since you're from 2022, you should know which companies will blow up in the future. Buy them now, while they're small if you can. Cogman tapped his chin thoughtfully. I could also start a technology company, manufacturing computers, phones, electrical appliances. Perhaps even an app and software company. Or a company that specializes in cars and motorcycles. Jacob smiled. Do whatever you think is best. Wait a month or two, and I'll give you more money. He smirked to himself. I can get money from Peter, Derek, maybe even Kate. Cogman's voice pulled him out of his thoughts. Sir, I'll need a laptop. Jacob waved a hand. Go grab mine. It's upstairs in my bedroom, and you can stay in the guest house behind the mansion. Turn it into your lab, workshop, or whatever you need. Cogman gave a small bow. Thank you, sir. I'll take my leave and begin researching this world before deciding the best way to invest your money. Wait. Jacob reached into his pocket dimension and pulled out the bestiary. He handed the heavy book to Cogman. This is an encyclopedia of supernatural creatures in our world. I want you to digitize it. Turn it into a phone and computer app. Something that lets us identify a creature based on its traits and abilities. Cogman accepted the book with a nod. Consider it done, sir. He then went upstairs, collected the laptop, and headed to the guest house. Jacob, and the other stayed in the living room chatting until Scott finally stood. "I've got work. Catch you later." He and Stiles left. Afterward, Jacob settled in between Allison and Lydia on the couch, arms around both as they watched a movie. By evening, Allison's phone rang. She sighed. "It's my mom. I've got to go. But Jay, don't forget, you're picking me up tomorrow for our date." Jacob kissed her. "Of course. Want me to give you a ride home?" Allison smirked. "No. Hand me your bike keys." Jacob blinked. "What? Don't want to?" she teased. He hesitated. What if you crash and hurt her?" Allison frowned. "Are you seriously more worried about your stupid bike than me?" Jacob said, "You're not a normal human anymore. Even if you get hurt, you'll heal in minutes. But Raven, she can't." "Raven?" Allison raised a brow. Jacob smirked proudly. "Yeah, I named her Raven." Allison's face darkened. She grabbed his ear and twisted. "Give me the damn keys." "Ouch, ouch." "Fine." He pulled the keys from his pocket dimension and handed them over. Allison tried to snatch them, but Jacob refused to let go. "Let go," she demanded, twisting his ear harder. Sniffling dramatically, Jacob finally released the keys and threw himself into Lydia's arms. "Ah, poor Raven. I might never see her again." Allison rolled her eyes. "She'll be fine, idiot." Jacob muttered. "I don't trust you. Just 2 weeks ago you hit a dog. You're a terrible driver." Allison kicked his shin. "Idiot." Then she smiled sweetly at Lydia. "Good night." "Good night," Lydia replied warmly. Allison left, and soon the rumble of Jacob's bike echoed outside. Jacob sniffled and buried his head into Lydia's chest while she laughed. She lifted his chin, eyes glinting playfully. "How about we go take a bath and do something fun?" Jacob instantly dropped the act. Without hesitation, he scooped her into his arms and sprinted upstairs. "You're the best, Lydia. You always know how to comfort my worried heart." Jacob and Lydia were woken the next morning at 10 a.m. by a knock on the bedroom door. Still half asleep, Jacob mumbled, "What is it, Cogman?" "Good morning, sir. Breakfast is ready." Cogman replied politely, "Oh, thanks. We'll shower and come down," Jacob said, yawning. "Very well, sir," Cogman said before heading back downstairs. Lydia yawned, still clinging to Jacob, and asked, "What time is it?" Jacob grabbed his phone from the nightstand, checked it, and said, "It's 10 a.m. Lydia sat up, her hair a complete mess. "I should go soon. My mom said she's taking me out today." Jacob kissed her, then scooped her up in his arms and carried her to the bathroom. After a quick shower together, they went downstairs to the kitchen. The dining table was filled with all kinds of food: eggs, sausages, and a variety of baked goods. Cogman was waiting for them, standing like a proper butler. "Good morning, sir." "Madam," Cogman greeted. "Good morning, Cogman." Lydia smiled warmly. As she went to sit, Cogman moved the chair out for her like a gentleman. Lydia smiled again and said, "Thank you." "You're welcome, madam," Cogman replied. Jacob frowned. "Hey, aren't you going to help me sit too?" Cogman completely ignored him and instead asked Lydia, "What would you like to drink, madam?" "I prepared tea, coffee, and freshly squeezed orange juice." "I'll have coffee and some orange juice, no sugar," Lydia said. "Right away, madam." Jacob sighed and sat down by himself. "Give me juice too, and a latte with sugar." "Sugar is bad for your health, sir," Cogman said flatly. Jacob narrowed his eyes. "Don't worry about my health. Just do as you're told." "As you wish, sir. You're the one who's going to get diabetes and die anyway. Just make sure to leave some children behind to carry on your bloodline before that happens," Cogman said matter-of-factly. Jacob slammed the table. "Are you cursing me, you stupid tin can?" "No, sir," Cogman said calmly. "But diabetes killed a few of my former masters, as well as their wives and children. I only advise caution. There's no need to worry about that happening to me. I'm a dragon. I don't get sick," Jacob said smugly. Cogman placed their drinks in front of them and tilted his head. "A dragon?" "Yes, and I'm in my growth stage," Jacob explained. "So you'll need to make me big meals every day, rich in nutrients. And don't tell anyone else about me being a dragon. I assume Madame Allison already knows." Cogman asked. "Yes," Jacob admitted, "but Stiles and Scott don't. and I'd like to keep it that way for now. After breakfast, Lydia kissed Jacob goodbye, and Cogman rushed to open the gate for her. Jacob sprawled out in the living room, watching an animal documentary. When Cogman returned, Jacob asked, "Did you order the materials for your skin?" "Yes. They'll arrive in 2 days." Cogman replied. "And how soon can you finish once they arrive?" "2 days at most, sir." "Good. Did you make the bestiary app one asked for?" "Yes. It's already installed on your laptop. As for your phone, I'll wait until the materials arrive. Then I'll design a proper phone for you and install it there as well." "Perfect. Also, make phones for Allison, Lydia, Scott, and Stiles." Jacob instructed. "Understood, sir." Jacob asked, "You've read the bestiary, right?" "I have." Cogman nodded. "I assume you know about the hunters, too, and probably even more than I do now about the supernatural side of this world." Cogman said, "Indeed. I did some hacking yesterday. I now have files on the hunters and countless secret organizations. They capture, kill, and experiment on supernatural creatures, and on humans as well." "Interesting," Jacob muttered. "Tell me, does the government know about the supernatural?" "Yes, sir," Cogman replied. "Some organizations are private, but most belong to governments around the world." Jacob narrowed his eyes. "Is there one here in California?" "Only small labs and black market dealers," Cogman explained. "The larger research facilities are elsewhere. The biggest one in the United States is in Nevada, Area 51. If you wish, I can give you the rest of the locations in detail." "Not now," Jacob said. "I doubt they'll come after me here. Besides, I'll keep a low profile, or at least kill my enemies so no one lives to tell stories about me." He leaned forward. "What I do want to hear is what plan you've come up with to invest my money." Cogman began explaining his strategy, and the two talked for hours until afternoon. Eventually, Jacob had a big lunch, changed his clothes, and drove over to Allison's house. When he arrived at the Argent residence, Jacob parked his car and reached out telepathically. "Allison, I'm outside. You ready for our date?" Her voice popped into his head almost immediately. "You scared me, you idiot. I'm in the shower. Give me 15 minutes. Jacob smirked. "More like 50. I'll be quick, I promise. Should I sneak in and join you in the shower?" Jacob teased. "No." Allison screamed in his head. "Kate's outside the bathroom door talking to me." "Stupid Kate." "Fine. I'll go for a ride before your dad drags me inside for another awkward talk. Call me when you're ready." "All right." Jacob was about to get back into his car when the front door opened. Chris stepped outside. Chris called, "Kid, come inside." Immediately, Allison's voice rushed into Jacob's head again. "Jacob, have you left yet?" Kate just said she heard someone open the front door, and she went downstairs. Jacob sighed as he walked toward the porch. "No, I haven't left. Your dad just came out and invited me in." Her laughter echoed through his mind. "Please just bear with him for a few minutes." "I'll try." When Jacob reached the door, he found Victoria and Kate standing behind Chris, waiting. He nodded politely. "Good evening, Mr. Argent." "Mrs. Argent." "Kate." Kate flashed him a playful smile. "Hello, handsome. Come on in." Jacob stepped forward, only to slam into something invisible. A barrier shimmered faintly where he'd tried to pass. He pressed his palm against it, then looked at Chris. "You invited me in, so why the barrier?" Chris smirked. "If you can't cross it, then you won't be taking my daughter out, and you'll stay away from her from now on." Jacob grinned. "And what if I can cross it? Then I won't stop you from dating her," Chris said firmly. Jacob glanced at Victoria and Kate. "You both heard him, right? If I can't enter, I'll stay away from Allison. But if I can, he'll stop interfering." Kate folded her arms, smirking. "Sure, kid. If you break through, I guarantee Chris will keep his word." Jacob smirked. "All right, then." Then, to the surprise of all three, Jacob's hand ignited on fire. He pressed it against the mountain ash barrier. Instantly, the barrier burst into flames and burned away until nothing remained. Jacob winked at Chris, stepped inside, and casually strolled past them into the living room. He dropped himself comfortably onto the couch as if he owned the place. The three Argents exchanged uneasy looks before Kate and Victoria followed him inside. Chris slammed the door shut and joined them, his glare fixed on Jacob. But Jacob spoke first. "So, Are you going to keep your word and let me date Allison? Chris narrowed his eyes. What do you think? Jacob chuckled. I see. A man with no word. Huh. I didn't break my promise. Chris snapped. I said if you could walk through the barrier, not burn your way in. Jacob shrugged. Technicalities. Either way, I'm not staying away from Allison. Chris leaned forward. Were you? A hellhound? Jacob smirked. Maybe. Maybe not. Kate crossed her arms. Do you even know what a hellhound is? Of course. Jacob said smoothly. A shapeshifter, a harbinger of death, with the power to generate and control fire. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Just like you. Jacob only smirked wider. Maybe. Chris's voice hardened. Did you tell Allison what you are? Jacob shot back immediately. Did you tell her what you and your family are, Hunter? Chris asked. You know I'm a hunter? Jacob leaned back casually. Of course. Isn't it normal for me to know who my friends and enemies are when I move into a new town? And I assume you figured out that I'm a supernatural creature the night I caught that mountain lion. Victoria studied him seriously. Did you get close to my daughter because she's an Argent? Jacob said firmly. No, I didn't know Allison was an Argent when I first met her. When I saw you picking her up and realized she was an Argent, it was too late. I was already attracted to her. And don't worry, I don't mean harm to her or your family. In fact, I do anything to protect her. Victoria frowned. So that night, I met you on the road, when you were being chased by that bear. You knew what it really was, didn't you? And you were just pretending. Jacob smirked. Weren't you pretending too? You knew it was an alpha werewolf, but you kept calling it a bear. He laughed. And I remember you asked me if I was bitten, telling me you would take me to the hospital if I was. I was laughing in my head, because I knew you wouldn't be taking me to a doctor. You take me straight to the morgue. Isn't that what you do? Killing shapeshifters just for being what they are. Chris's jaw tightened. We have a code, kid. Jacob leaned forward, eyes sharp. Sure, I know your code. But tell me, are you certain every shapeshifter you killed was a murderer? Are you sure all your hunters follow that code? Kate snapped. There are no innocent shapeshifters, especially werewolves. They're all dangerous monsters that need to be put down. Jacob's gaze locked on hers, his tone cold. That's just a lie Gerard probably told you. Or maybe something you tell yourself, so your guilty conscience lets you sleep at night. Chris's face hardened. You know Gerard? Jacob nodded. Of course I know about the infamous Gerard Argent. Never met him, but I've heard enough. A bastard more evil than a Najid's son. Watch your mouth, you little punk. Chris snapped. That's my father you're insulting. Jacob smirked darkly. You'll find out sooner or later what kind of man he really is. Then his gaze slid over to Kate. But I bet Kate already knows. Her heartbeat is going crazy right now. Chris turned to her, suspicious. Kate shrugged. Don't look at me like that. Gerard might be proud of you and a good father to you. But to me, he's a terrible father. No matter what I do, I would never be good enough for him. You have no idea what terrible things he made me do, Chris. The kid said it best. Gerard is more evil than a Najid's son. Chris went silent, jaw tight. Victoria quickly stepped in to shift the conversation. She turned to Jacob. Tell me, kid, why was the alpha after you that night on the road? And why did he follow you to our house and attack you the second time? Jacob leaned back on the couch, calm. I already told you why he came after me the first time. I bear sprayed him and gouged his eyes. Then his smirk returned as he looked at Kate. As for the second time, he wasn't after me. He was after her. Kate narrowed her eyes. Why would he come after me? Jacob tilted his head. I don't know. But judging by how fast and loud your heartbeat is right now, I'm sure you know. Maybe you killed someone from his pack. Kate gave another careless shrug. I don't remember. I've killed a lot of monsters. Jacob's smirk faded into something colder. You know I can tell when you're lying, right? Or maybe I'm not lying. Kate shot back. Maybe I'm just nervous. Jacob chuckled lowly. Maybe. But Kate, have you ever heard this saying? Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. Can't remember who said it, but the point is, you should make sure you don't turn into a monster yourself while hunting monsters. Kate smirked. Don't worry about me, kid. I can handle myself. What I want to know is, what are you? Jacob shrugged. I don't know. There's no one left from my family to tell me. Victoria leaned forward. Why don't you shift and let us see? Maybe we can help. Jacob let out a dry laugh. Help? You mean help put me in a morgue? Chris shook his head. No, we'd help you identify what you are. Jacob looked at him. Yeah, right. I'm not stupid. You want to know what I am so you can learn my weaknesses, beat me, and force me to stay away from Allison. Then he turned his sharp gaze to Victoria. And you're probably already thinking of ways to kill me. I can practically smell the killing intent coming off you. Finally, his eyes locked on Kate. As for you, you're probably thinking of filling Allison's head with lies and manipulating her to kill me with her own hands. Jacob's smirk vanished. His tone grew serious. Like I said before, I don't mean Allison or you guys any harm. So please, for Allison's sake, don't push me. Don't make me do something I'll regret. Kate leaned back, smirking. What? Are you threatening to kill us? Jacob looked at her. No, I'm not cruel enough to kill Allison's parents and break her heart. But you, Kate. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I'm not so sure about. Kate scoffed, brushing his words off. Allison loves me. If you kill me, she'd never forgive you. Jacob smirked darkly. She wouldn't have to know it was me. Maybe I'll just ambush you when you're alone. Burn you to ash until there's nothing left. You'd simply disappear from this world. Kate's heartbeat spiked, pounding loud in Jacob's ears. She was scared. Then Allison's voice rang in his head, sharp and protective. Jay, stop scaring her. Jacob answered telepathically. All right, I was just messing with her. Now go put on your clothes. You've been eavesdropping on the stairs since I walked in. Allison replied. Okay, I'll be down in a minute. He heard her tiptoe back toward her room. Jacob leaned back against the couch, eyes still fixed on Kate. Relax. I was just messing with you. As long as you don't try to harm me, I'll treat you with respect. Then he turned to Chris, his tone sharpening again. But understand this, sir. I'm not Derek Hale. Don't think you can bring your hunters and try to push me around. I won't hurt you, but your goons? I won't be nearly as patient. Chris narrowed his eyes. You know Derek Hale? Jacob smirked. Yeah, I know him. I even know who the Alpha is. Chris leaned forward. What? Tell me who it is. Jacob tilted his head. And what's in it for me? Chris said firmly. You'll be helping us take down a monster that's killing innocent people in this town. Jacob laughed, shaking his head. Innocent people? For a hunter, you're really clueless. Chris frowned. What do you mean by that? Jacob stood up, brushing him off. Forget it. Let's end this little talk. Allison's on her way down. Chris straightened, his tone suddenly stern. Don't tell her about the supernatural, or about us being hunters. I don't want her to know yet. Jacob said, Fine, but when should I tell her? Chris crossed his arms. Don't worry, I'll tell her myself. Just then Allison came down the stairs, eyeing them curiously and pretending like she didn't hear their conversation. What were you guys talking about? And why did you all stop when I walked in? Jacob smiled lightly. Nothing important. They were just trying to intimidate me like usual and didn't want you to know. Let's go. Without waiting, he walked out of the living room. Allison said a quick goodbye to her parents and Kate before following him out to his car. Kate moved to the window, watching Jacob and Allison drive away. Her smirk returned as she turned to Chris. Are you really going to let him date her? Chris's eyes hardened. No, I told him not to tell her because I want to make him lose control in front of her. Make him the first monster she sees. Maybe that way she'll be scared of him and not trust him because he didn't tell her what he is. Then we'll tell her about Wendigos and all kinds of evil creatures out there and make her hate him and turn against him. Kate grinned. Not bad. Sounds like a plan worth trying. After leaving the Argent house, Jacob and Allison drove toward town. Inside the car, Allison glanced at him. Do you think they'll try to attack you? Jacob shrugged. Probably. But don't worry. I'll just teach them a small lesson so they know I'm not a pushover. The rest is up to you. You can either convince them to stop bothering me, or just tell them that we're bonded. If they kill me, you'll die too. Allison frowned. Do you really think my mom wants to kill you? Jacob nodded. I'm about 90% sure she wants to kill me, so you won't date a monster. Allison sighed. Why does she hate you so much? I don't think she hates me personally. Jacob replied. I think she hates all supernatural creatures because she was raised to hate and kill them. I don't know what my parents went through growing up, but I want to help them see that not all supernatural creatures are evil. Like you. Like Scott. Jacob smiled faintly. Good luck with that, especially with your mom. She feels like a snake, cold, calm, and when you least expect it, she'll strike. Allison laughed softly. Yeah, I agree. But don't let her hear you call her a snake. She'll hate you for the rest of her life. Jacob smirked. I won't tell her if you don't. Let's not talk about my parents and the supernatural anymore. Allison leaned back. Where are you taking me? Jacob raised an eyebrow. How about you take me on a date today? Maybe another time. She teased, then gave him a wink. I was actually thinking we grab a quick bite and then head to your place. Jacob blinked. Head to my place? I just got out of there, so maybe let's have fun in town first. He caught the look she gave him and froze. Wait, are you talking about? Allison cut him off. Yes, you don't need to say it out loud. Jacob grinned. Finally, then I think there's no need for us to grab a bite. He spun the wheel, drifting the car as he changed direction toward his mansion. Allison laughed. Slow down, you idiot. Slow down. Jacob grinned wider. I never wished for a teleportation ability more than I'm wishing for it now. He smirked at her. How about we just do it in the car? Allison rolled her eyes. How about we go on a date, and you drive me home without doing anything? Jacob sighed. Fine. Home, it is. But Allison leaned closer, smiling. We can do it in the car some other time. For my first time, though, I at least want a bed. As you wish. Jacob said, grinning. For me, I don't care where we do it. I only care that we do it. Lydia isn't home, right? Allison asked. No, she's spending the day with her mom. Good. Allison whispered. I want to be alone with you in the house today. Moments later, they pulled up to the mansion. Jacob parked, scooped Allison into his arms, and sprinted to the front door. Just as they reached it, the door opened. Cogman stood there, bowing politely. Good afternoon, madam. Then he glanced at Jacob. Sir, didn't you say you were going on a date with Madam Allison? Jacob walked past him with Allison still in his arms. Change of plans, we decided to... Before he could finish, Allison's cheeks turned red. She slapped her hand over his mouth. Shut up. Oh, I see. Cogman said with a perfectly serious tone. You two wish to canoodle. Should I set the mood? Perhaps light some candles in the bedroom, scatter rose petals. Cogman. Jacob snapped, while Allison buried her face in his shoulder, pinching him furiously. That's enough. We don't need anything. As you wish, sir. Then, when should I prepare dinner? Jacob groaned. What time is it now? It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sir. Fine. Call us for dinner at 11. Very well. Without another word, Jacob sprinted upstairs with Allison still in his arms, kicked the door, closed behind him, and tossed her gently onto the bed. He climbed in after her, staring straight into her eyes. I'm good with sarcasm, and I know how to make fun of people. Jacob said quietly, his tone uncharacteristically serious. But I'm not good with romantic words, so I won't say anything cheesy. I'll just say, I love you, Allison. Allison's eyes softened. That's better than any romantic line you could have come up with. I love you too. Jacob leaned down, and their lips met. The teasing was gone, replaced by passion. Soon, their clothes were thrown aside, and they lost themselves in each other, starting a love-making session that lasted for a few hours. Later, the two of them lay together in the bathtub, surrounded by hot water. Allison rested her head on Jacob's chest, eyes closed with a soft, satisfied smile. Jacob's eyes were closed as well, though he wasn't fully at rest. The translucent blue screen of the system floated before him. Congratulations, host. You have consummated your bond with Allison Argent. Your strength will now begin to grow faster than before, and you may grant Allison abilities and bloodlines rewarded by the system. Jacob's thoughts stirred. By the way, I should have asked this earlier, but what exactly can I share with people who aren't my mates? I gave a Mirakuru to Stiles, and it worked. I gave Derek a Senzabine, and it healed him too. Potions and consumable rewards can be given to anyone. However, abilities and bloodlines cannot. For example, the Thunder Element crystal you received before may be given to anyone, and it will work, because it is consumable. But if you obtain a Thunder ability that must be merged into your body by the system, it can only be used by you or transferred to one of your mates. I see. so consumables can be given to anyone, but abilities and bloodlines are exclusive. He exhaled, stroking Allison's hair. All right then, what are the rewards I got after sleeping with Allison? Rewards for consummating the bond with Allison Argent. Ability, Earth Element Control. Spatial Ring, *10, 100 cubic meters. Memory Neuralizer, Men in Black, a flash device capable of erasing, modifying, or replacing recent memories of anyone exposed to its flash. Perfect for covering up inconvenient events. Jacob's eyes lit up when he saw the rewards. Cool. Is it weird that I'm more excited about the Memory Neuralizer than the Earth Element ability? He shook his head with a smile. And the spatial rings? Useless for me, but I bet the girls will love them. Host, there are still rewards available for your mate. Jacob said in his mind. Show me. Please select one of the following bloodlines for your mate. 1. High Elf Bloodline. Lifespan, near immortal longevity. Primary affinity, nature and plant manipulation. Abilities, communicate with and command flora. Accelerate plant growth, wield thorny vines in combat, and heal using natural energy. 2. Wind Fairy Bloodline. Lifespan, ageless and long-lived. Primary affinity, wind element. Abilities, generate powerful gusts, form razor-sharp wind blades, summon localized storms, and eventually create devastating tornadoes. 3. Vampire Bloodline. Lifespan, biologically immortal. Primary affinity, blood and darkness. Abilities, superhuman strength, extreme speed, rapid regeneration, enhanced senses, blood manipulation, and the ability to command lesser vampires. Power grows by turning others into lesser vampires. More lesser vampires, greater personal strength. Weakness to sunlight until the strength grows to the level of an alpha werewolf. Jacob skimmed the list. Elf isn't bad. I like the Wind Fairy. Vampire? Nope. Last thing I want is to become Allison's personal blood bag. He smirked and glanced at her. Allison, you awake? She opened her eyes lazily. MHM. Yeah. Good. Let's get out of here. I want to give you something. Her brows rose. What is it? Because if it's what I think it is, I can't do it anymore. I might be healed, but I'm still kind of numbed down there. Jacob chuckled, standing and lifting her out of the tub. Trust me, I'm tempted, but I'm satisfied for tonight. She slipped from his arms, grabbed a towel, and dried off. Then what exactly are you giving me? He threw on a bathrobe. Something good. I promise you'll love it. As they stepped back into the bedroom, Allison glanced at the mess, clothes torn and scattered across the floor. She picked up her shredded shirt and sighed. Did you really have to tear my clothes? Jacob gave her a look. You're the one to talk. Did you forget what you did to mine? She stuck her tongue out at him, then went into the walk-in closet, returning in one of Jacob's black tracksuits. Jacob put on some sweatpants and a hoodie. Let's clean up first, Allison said. All right, he replied. Once the room was back in order, they sat together on the bed. Allison smiled softly. So what is this mysterious gift? Jacob leaned closer, his tone serious. When a woman becomes my mate, I can pass a bloodline to her. Don't ask me how, I don't know. All I know is that these bloodlines are stored inside my body, and when we had sex for the first time, 3 of them chose you. I'll tell you what they are, and you can pick one. Allison looked at him in surprise, then gently touched his cheek, smiling before leaning in to kiss him. When the kiss broke, Jacob tilted his head, puzzled. Why are you looking at me like that? Allison said, Nothing. It's just, sometimes I think you're so mysterious and magical, and I even find it hard sometimes to believe that you're real. Jacob smirked. Yeah, I'm unbelievably awesome, aren't I? Allison rolled her eyes. Tell me about those bloodlines, you narcissist. Jacob told her about the 3 bloodlines in detail, then added, I didn't want to tell you about the vampire one. I don't like it, but it's your choice. Allison shook her head. I don't like it either. The elf one is nice, but I think I want the Wind Fairy bloodline. What do you think? Jacob smiled. Honestly, I think it's the best of the 3 and perfect for you. You're an archer. Imagine shooting arrows made of wind, and when you're strong enough, you can fly and even create disaster-level storms and tornadoes. Allison didn't hesitate. Then it settled. I'll take the Wind Fairy bloodline. Jacob said, All right, turn around. She turned around, and Jacob placed his palm against her back. System, merge the wind fairy bloodline into Allison's body. Are you sure, host? Yes. A surge of energy pulsed from Jacob's hand into Allison. She felt her body grow hot as a strange force spread through every cell, weaving itself into her essence. After 5 minutes, a new system prompt appeared before Jacob's eyes. You may remove your hand now, host. The transformation will take approximately 1 hour to complete. Jacob saw Allison's eyes close peacefully. There was no pain, only calm. He let her rest and turned his focus inward. System, merge the earth element controllability into my body. Are you sure, host? Yes. A wave of heat surged through him, but it vanished just as quickly. Jacob raised his hand, and with a thought, a small rock formed in his palm. Another thought, and the rock crumbled into dust and disappeared. Jacob grinned, satisfied. Nice. System, show me my status. Status. Name, Jacob Alexander, 16 years old. Species, human/dragon. Abilities, 1. Pyrokinesis. 2. Electrokinesis. 3. Geokinesis. 4. Fire and electricity immunity. 5. Standard shifter abilities. 6. Poison immunity. 7. Passive charm. 8. Dragonborn shout fuss ro da, Skyrim. 9. Dragon fire/lightning breath. Weapons and items. Banana peel, Mario Kart. Defective lightsaber, defective invisibility cloak, Excalibur knockoff. The Joker's laughing bomb X20. Akin Popeye's spinach. Mirakuru arrow, DC Comics. X07. Senzu beans X3. Expired Senzu beans X09. Spatial ring X10. Memory neuralizer. Men in Black. A replica of the katana Shusui. One Piece. A Glock 45. Jacob smiled with satisfaction. At least now I've got enough power to protect myself in this world. Unless something crazy strong shows up that never appeared in the original Teen Wolf series. He sighed, stretching out on the bed. And even if something does, well, I still have Popeye's spinach to triple my strength. And Cogman too. With that thought, Jacob relaxed, laying back on the bed, idly scrolling through his phone as he waited for Allison's transformation to finish. An hour passed before Allison's eyes slowly fluttered open. Only this time, they glowed a brilliant emerald green. She gasped, excitement surging through her, and leapt from the bed. Jay looked. Green energy surrounded her body, and gentle wind stirred inside the room, rustling curtains. Allison's hair began turning dark green. Her ears became long and pointy, and freckles bloomed beneath her eyes like delicate constellations. She raised her hand, and green wind started swirling around it. Jacob could only stare, stunned, breathless, utterly captivated. You look gorgeous," he whispered. Allison tilted her head, curiosity glimmering in her glowing eyes. "Did my appearance change?" Jacob nodded. "Yes. Look at the mirror." She turned toward the floor-to-ceiling mirror across the room. Her lips parted in awe. "Wow, I do look gorgeous, don't I?" She turned left and right, admiring every detail of her new form, fingertips grazing the tips of her ears, then combing through the green silk of her hair. Jacob stepped behind her, slipping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. Together, they looked at her reflection. "Can we do it while you're in this form?" Jacob murmured with a sly grin. Allison shot him a playful wink. "Not tonight. Please. Just once." She laughed softly. "I want to do it as much as you, but I'm really numb down there and can't do it anymore tonight. You have to wait until tomorrow, or the day after if Lydia wants to do it with you tomorrow." Jacob sighed dramatically. "That's a shame. I really wanted to sleep with a fairy." Allison turned, kissed him, and pressed her forehead to his. "Be patient. I'll make it up to you." "Fine," he muttered, though the smile tugging at his lips betrayed him. "Come on," Allison said eagerly. "Let's go outside. I want to try my abilities." "Wait," Jacob said, sitting on the bed and pulling his laptop toward him. "Let's see what the bestiary says about fairies first." Allison slid beside him as he opened Cogman's custom app and searched for Wind Fairy. Eras Siddhi, Wind Fairy or Air Fairy. Classification: Elemental Fae. Appearance: Beta form, glowing green eyes, pointed ears, dark green hair, freckles beneath the eyes. Alpha form, glowing red eyes, large butterfly-like wings. Abilities: enhanced strength, speed, agility, and rapid healing. Aerokinesis, control of wind to create gusts and razor-sharp blades, etc. Electrokinesis, can generate electricity, often as bolts of lightning or smaller electric spheres, by manipulating electrical currents within the air. Alpha potential. In its alpha form, a wind fairy can be very dangerous. It can control the weather and, when strong enough, create devastating thunderstorms and tornadoes. Weaknesses: mountain ash. Like many supernatural creatures, they cannot cross a barrier of mountain ash. Allison's eyes widened. Wow, I could do all that. I know about wind control, and you told me about the storms and tornadoes, but I didn't think I could use electricity. She lifted her hand, focusing intently. Nothing happened. She pouted. I can't do it. Jacob smiled gently, holding up his own palm. See if you can feel anything. Electricity started gathering and dancing around his fingers. Allison's eyes widened as she touched the current. Wow, it tingles, but it doesn't hurt. She closed her eyes, concentrating on the sensation. Slowly, cautiously, she pulled her hand back. Tiny sparks flickered into existence in her palm. Her eyes flew open. Yes, I did it. It's weak, but I did it. Overcome with excitement, she threw her arms around Jacob, hugging him tightly. Jacob chuckled, kissing her forehead. You just need to train every day and it will get stronger. That's how I did it. The more you use your abilities, the stronger they get and the better you'll be at controlling them. Allison pulled back, gave him a deep, passionate kiss, and whispered against his lips. Thank you. Jacob smiled. You're welcome. Allison stood, her green eyes still shimmering faintly. Let's go outside. I want to test my wind ability. Jacob raised a brow, leaning back on the bed. How about we have dinner first, then go to the woods? I'd rather not have you tear up the backyard. Allison chuckled, then shifted back into her human form, hair returning to its usual color, her ears normal once again. Fine. What time is it? Jacob glanced at his phone. 10 o'clock. Cogman should call us for dinner soon. Allison collapsed onto the bed with a bright smile, her excitement still bubbling beneath the surface. Jacob studied her for a moment, then spoke cautiously. I hate to bring this up, but did you forget about the mountain ash barrier? Your parents used it earlier to stop me from entering your house. I burned it, but what if they set up another? Allison's smile faltered. She sat up, worry flickering in her eyes. If they do, they'll find out I'm supernatural and I don't want them to know. Not yet. Is there any way around it? Jacob shook his head. Sorry, there isn't. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Then what if they ground me? Trap me inside the barrier like a prison? Jacob leaned back. They probably won't. And even if they do, remember, just because you can't pass through it doesn't mean you can't break it. If you focus your power on a single point, you could shatter it. Allison thought hard. Maybe a large wind arrow, sharp and fast, aimed at one point. Make it spin, Jacob suggested. It'll hit harder that way. She nodded slowly, but her expression remained troubled. I'm not as worried about breaking the barrier as I am about my parents' reaction. Once they know I'm supernatural. Jacob reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. They'll be upset, sure, but you're not a werewolf, Allison. They won't hate you. Worst case, they blame me for turning you into a fairy. A small smirk tugged at Allison's lips. Then you have to bear with them. Jacob chuckled. Sorry, I can't do that. I already tolerated your dad pulling a gun on me every time he sees me. Allison frowned, half concerned, half amused. So what are you going to do? Jacob smirked. Don't worry. I won't hurt him. But if he tries it again, I'll just take his gun away. Besides, they might not even put the barrier back up, so they won't know what you become. At least not yet. Allison exhaled slowly, relief and doubt mingling in her voice. I hope so. I'd rather they keep thinking I don't know anything. Jacob smiled. By the way, I still have another gift for you. Allison's eyes lit up with excitement. What is it? With a flick of his hand, Jacob summoned a ring from his pocket dimension. It gleamed in the low light, white gold, shaped into the head of a dragon. Two small red diamonds glowed like living eyes. Jacob looked at the ring and thought, "Nice one, system. The ring looks really good." He held out to her. "I want you to have this." Allison's breath caught. "A ring? Wait, is this supposed to be an engagement ring?" Jacob handed it to her. "Wear it." But Allison didn't take the ring. She looked at Jacob, smirking. "What, no going down on one knee? No romantic proposal?" Jacob grinned. "Too late for that. We're already married." Allison snorted and took the ring from his hand. "You're so unromantic." She studied it for a moment, then sighed. "I can't wear it on my ring finger. My parents would freak out." Jacob shrugged. "Wear it wherever you like." She slid it onto her left index finger and turned her hand, watching the dragon's jeweled eyes glimmer. "It's beautiful, thank you. I love it. But how much did this cost you?" Jacob smirked knowingly. "Believe me, you don't want to know the price of that ring." Her eyes widened slightly. "Is it that expensive?" Jacob said with a chuckle. "If I ever put it up for sale, people would pay billions for it." Allison rolled her eyes, half amused. "You're exaggerating." Jacob didn't argue. Instead, he gently took her right hand. With a flick of his claw, he made a tiny cut on her finger. Allison didn't say anything, just watched as Jacob dripped her blood on the ring. A soft glow spread across its surface as it absorbed the blood. Allison gasped the moment it bonded. She felt a connection with it. Knowledge flooded her mind, the ring whispering its secrets to her. After learning what the ring really was, she turned to Jacob, speechless. Her eyes shimmered with awe. Then, without a word, she shifted into her fairy form. Green hair and glowing eyes framed her beauty as she pounced on him, tearing through his clothes once again. Half an hour later, the two lay tangled in each other's arms. Allison rested her head on Jacob's chest, still catching her breath. Her voice came soft, trembling with emotion. "I don't even know what to say anymore. A simple thank you could never express how grateful I am for everything you've given me." Jacob ran his hand slowly through her hair with a satisfied smile. "You don't need to thank me, Allison. You're my girlfriend. Well, not just my girlfriend, but my wife. My partner. For the rest of our lives. Making you happy isn't a gift, it's my duty." Allison lifted her face, smiling through her exhaustion. She kissed him gently. "I love you. I love you too." Jacob replied with a smirk. "My beautiful fairy." Allison groaned as she sat up, wincing slightly. "We really shouldn't have done it again. Now, not only am I completely numb down there, but it even hurts a little. This is your fault, you handsome pervert." Jacob laughed, the sound echoing warmly through the room. Allison couldn't help but smile, playing with her new spatial ring, putting her phone in and out of it like a child with a new toy. Just then, a knock was heard on the door. Jacob sighed. "What is it, Cogman?" The butler's voice came through, polite as ever. "Dinner's ready, sir," Jacob said. "We'll be right down." Jacob rolled out of bed and scooped Allison effortlessly into his arms. "Come on. Quick shower, then food. I'm starving." Minutes later, both dressed in fresh clothes, they prepared to leave. Allison shook her head, still amused. "We should probably stop tearing each other's clothes. At this rate, we'll have nothing left to wear." Jacob shrugged with a grin. "Who cares about clothes? We can always buy more. Let's go eat." Allison lingered. "You go ahead. I'll clean the room first. I don't want Cogman seeing the mess we made." Jacob smirked. "Then I'll help." Together they tidied the chaos, still exchanging smiles and glances. After that, they went downstairs, both in a good mood. In the kitchen, Cogman was waiting. He ignored Jacob entirely and instead helped Allison gracefully into her seat. "You seem in good spirits, madam." "I take it sir fulfilled his duties as a husband properly." Jacob, mid-sip of water, nearly choked. Allison raised a brow, her lips twitching into a smile. "He did," she replied simply. Cogman said, "I thought he couldn't." Jacob glared at the butler. "You stupid tin can. Are you implying I'm impotent?" Cogman's eyes glimmered with dry wit. "Not at all, sir. But you do give the impression you might not last long." Allison burst out laughing. Jacob could only shake his head, stabbing into his steak. After swallowing, he muttered darkly, I know you're just joking, so I won't bother with you. But you're lucky you're not a woman, or I'd prove to you exactly how long I can last. Allison, still amused, tilted her head toward the butler. Tell me, Cogman, do Cybertronians have relationships? Like humans do. Cogman said. If you mean physical intercourse, madam, no. But we do have emotions. We feel anger, hate, remorse, and yes, love. Cybertronian males can fall in love with Cybertronian females. Our bonds are real, just different. Allison leaned forward curiously. Then, how do you reproduce? Cogman said. Cybertronians reproduce by merging their spark energies. When a mature male and a mature female combine their spark energies, they create a child spark. It is our form of conception. Allison nodded, fascinated. I see. Do you have any children back in your world? Cogman shook his head. No, madam. I never cared for such matters. He turned then, fixing his glowing eyes on Jacob. By the way, sir, I believe this house requires a piano. Jacob arched a brow. What for? To annoy me? Cogman's tone remained level, but there was a glimmer of mischief. To set the mood, sir. And we need a pet as well. Jacob sighed, dragging a hand down his face. I don't need a piano, and I definitely don't need a pet. I already have you, an insufferably rude pet. Why would I want another? I'm not a pet, sir. Cogman replied calmly. I'm the butler of this house, and I am quite certain Madame Allison and Madame Lydia would love to have a companion animal. Jacob narrowed his eyes. Maybe later. And you didn't argue about the piano. What? A pause. His gaze sharpened. You already bought one, didn't you? Cogman clasped his hands behind his back, unbothered. Yes, sir. It will arrive tomorrow along with the materials I ordered. Trust me, you are going to love it. Jacob leaned forward, voice low. I swear, if you start playing some creepy tune in the middle of the night, I will break that piano over your head. Cogman said. I won't do that, sir. Dinner ended. The plates cleared, the conversation dwindled. Jacob and Allison left the mansion together. Let's not take the car. Let's walk, Jacob suggested, slipping his hands into his pockets. We'll pass by the woods. You can test your powers there. Then we'll head to your house. I need to bring Raven home. Allison smirked. Your bike? Can't you leave it? I promise I'll bring it here tomorrow. Jacob shook his head. No, I don't trust your dad. If he finds out you're a supernatural creature, he'll blame me, and I don't want to imagine what he'd do to my bike. What if I put it in my ring? Allison countered. Still no. Jacob said, if you want a bike so badly, I'll buy you one. But Raven is mine, and even though I love you, I won't give her to you. Allison snorted. Fine. You don't need to buy me one. Just let me ride yours every now and then. Jacob nodded. Deal. But no more taking her to your house until your parents and I are on better terms. Fine, she said again, rolling her eyes. They reached the iron gate. Cogman was waiting, and with a graceful bow, he opened it. Good night, madam. Allison smiled warmly. Good night, Cogman. Then she turned to Jacob, eyes alight with playful energy. Let's run. I want to see how fast I can go now. Jacob smirked. All right, let's go. And in an instant, they were gone, two streaks of motion vanishing into the night, racing toward the woods at supernatural speed, leaving Cogman watching from the gate, his blue eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Jacob and Allison sprinted side by side through the woods, their feet barely touching the ground as the world blurred around them. Allison laughed, exhilarated, her voice carrying over the rushing wind. Wow, this is incredible. I was fast after you gave me that potion, but never this fast. Jacob grinned, matching her pace with ease. Try channeling your wind ability into your speed. See if you can remove the air resistance around your body. Allison's eyes lit up. Oh, let me try. Green currents began swirling around her form as she ran. She focused, clumsy at first, but after a few tries she managed to control the air around her. Instantly, resistance vanished. A powerful stream of wind burst behind her like a jet, propelling her forward. She shot ahead in a blur, her hair whipping wildly in the gale. Jacob chuckled and poured on more speed until he caught up. matching her stride. For a few moments, they were nothing but streaks of motion in the moonlit forest. But soon, Allison skidded to a stop. "All right, let's stop here." Jacob stopped beside her, tilting his head. "Tired already?" She shook her head, breathing steady. "Running without wind is almost effortless. But when I use my powers, it drains me fast. I'd rather save my energy for testing my other abilities." Jacob nodded. "Fair enough. Then let's see what you can do." And to do that, he smirked, cracking his knuckles. "I'm going to attack you." Allison's eyes glowed bright green as she shifted into her fairy form. She smiled, excitement glinting in her eyes. "That sounds fun." Jacob's expression grew serious. "Are you ready? I won't go easy on you. Bring it on." In a flash of movement, Jacob appeared before her, his fist streaking toward her face. It wasn't his full strength, far from it, but enough to hurt if it landed. Allison's instincts flared. Her hands shot up just in time, and the air before her twisted into a shimmering emerald barrier. Jacob's fist slammed into the compressed wind with a muffled thud, the force rippling outward. His punch deflected harmlessly past her cheek, rustling her hair and sending her stumbling back. Jacob grinned. "A barrier that can deflect attacks? That's good." He pivoted, sweeping low for her legs. Allison's eyes widened, and in desperation, she thrust her palms downward. A repulsive gust burst outward in a shockwave, blasting leaves and dirt in every direction. The power didn't hurt him, but it threw off his balance, forcing him to hop back. "Nice," Jacob praised, steadying himself. "But next time, focus all the force on your attacker instead of scattering around. That'll hit harder." Allison caught her breath and gave a sheepish smile. "I didn't even know what I was doing. I just reacted instinctively. You'll learn control with training. Now your turn. Attack me." She nodded, determination flashing in her green eyes. Swinging her arm in a wide arc, she unleashed a cutting gust. A pale green crescent of compressed air tore forward but veered off course, slicing clean through a sapling beside Jacob instead of him. Jacob smirked. "That didn't even come close to hitting me, love." Allison scratched her cheek, embarrassed. "Well, it's my first time. Now let's try something else." She clenched her fists and thrust them outward. A concentrated blast of wind roared straight toward his chest. Jacob crossed his arms in defense, and the impact made him take a step back, dust scattering under his feet. Jacob raised his hand, fire sparking to life in his palm. "That was a little impressive. Now, let's see if you can handle this." Flames swirled, condensing into a sphere the size of a basketball. With a sharp flick, he hurled it at Allison. Allison saw the ball of fire heading toward her fast and was a little scared. Fear clawed at her instincts to dodge, but she held her ground. She focused on the air in front of the fire and poured her energy into creating a strong wind barrier. The fire hit the wall of wind. Instead of piercing through, the swirling winds shredded it apart, scattering embers harmlessly into the air until nothing but sparks faded in the night. Jacob grinned. "Not bad, but I doubt that barrier could withstand a stronger fire attack." Allison nodded. "I know. Wind feeds fire and make it stronger. The only reason the barrier worked this time was because your attack was weak." Then a sly smile tugged at her lips. She spread her arms wide, wind rushing at her command. Leaves, dirt, and moss lifted violently from the forest floor, whirling into a churning dust storm that engulfed the clearing. Visibility dropped to zero, and Allison moved around, trying to hide in the dust storm she created. Jacob stood still, his senses immediately heightening. He looked around but couldn't see her. The world around him was chaos, and dirt stung his eyes. He listened, his draconic hearing filtering through the rustle of leaves and dirt, and heard her heartbeat. He turned toward the sound. Then a new sound rose, a loud, constant, whistling gust of wind she sent weaving and screaming through the branches of the trees around them. It was a shrieking gale, perfectly masking the rhythm of her heartbeat. Jacob's eyes glowed golden, shifting to his draconic sight. He tried to find Allison by detecting her heat signature, but the dust and leaves flying around blocked and scattered the infrared radiation, preventing him from seeing through the storm to any heat sources. He let out a quiet breath. Smart, she blocked both my hearing and my sight. High above, Allison perched on a thick branch she had reached by making herself lighter with a cushion of air. Her chest rose and fell heavily. Her energy was draining fast from keeping the storm alive. She raised a hand, focusing. She compressed the wind above her palm, refined it, and shaped it with precision. A single, slender, shimmering arrow of solid wind took form, humming with power. She used the wind to find Jacob's location, took aim, and let the wind arrow fly. It shot through the dusty air like a green comet. Jacob sensed the concentrated energy and turned, his hand flashing up. A small, concentrated fireball, no larger than an apple, shot from his palm to meet it. The two projectiles collided in a blinding flash, scattering into nothing. Allison didn't wait. She leaped, the wind softening her landing, and rolled behind another giant tree. Gritting her teeth, she envisioned not one, but 3 arrows this time. She swept her hands forward, and the wind arrows flew toward Jacob from her new position. This time, Jacob didn't use a small fireball. He turned to the source of the attack, took a deep breath, and unleashed a controlled fire breath. The cone of flame engulfed the arrows, vaporizing them into harmless puffs of agitated air. The dust storm dissipated after Allison stopped controlling it, and Allison knew she was exposed. She jumped out from behind the tree and, with a cry of effort, swung her hand in a precise arc. A sharp wind slash flew horizontally at Jacob's torso. He didn't block it. He simply leaned back, the blade whistling past his chest to slice clean through a thick tree trunk behind him. The top of the tree groaned and began to topple. Jacob straightened, a smirk tugging at his lips. Not bad. Allison smiled proudly and waved both hands rapidly, sending a volley of wind slashes toward him. They were stronger this time, faster, sharper, more precise than before. Jacob didn't dodge. He stood his ground, and as the first slash reached him, he simply threw a punch. His fist met the concentrated air head-on and shattered it into a harmless breeze. He did it again and again, punching through her attacks like they were made of fragile glass, each impact sounding like a small thunderclap. Jacob smiled. I like what you did with that dust storm. Blocking both my hearing and sight. That was clever. Allison was panting. But you still blocked every attack, even when you couldn't see me. Jacob's expression was calm, almost amused. If I couldn't even do that, I'd be ashamed to call myself a dragon. Her brows furrowed. But how did you do it? I'm very sensitive to energy, so the moment you started creating your wind arrow, I sense your location. I can also feel danger. Jacob replied, and I could have used electricity to track your location. Don't forget, I have more than just eyes and ears. Allison tilted her head, whispering, I see. Jacob's gaze softened. But I'm proud of you, though. You only became a fairy today, and yet the strength you showed just now is enough to take down a weak alpha werewolf. And if you could create a dust storm like you just did, trapping a pack of werewolves inside it and blocking their senses, you could take on an alpha and his whole pack on your own, with range attacks, of course. Although you're strong physically and have rapid healing, the last thing a creature like you should do is short-range combat. A proud smile spread across Allison's face. I could just use my wind slashes and kill a werewolf, even an alpha like Peter. His skin isn't as tough as yours, right? Jacob's eyes narrowed. Don't get cocky. Peter isn't a weak alpha. In his werewolf form, that slash you just used to cut a tree in half would do little damage to him. If you can hit him, that is, he's fast. If you let him close the distance, you'll be in real trouble. Physically, you're not on his level at all. Allison frowned. But I already had beta-level strength before I became a fairy, and now that I'm a fairy, I've become even stronger. I thought I was as strong as an alpha werewolf now. Jacob shook his head. Not even close. When a creature becomes an alpha, whether it's a werewolf or anything else, their entire being evolves. They don't just get stronger. They become more connected to their supernatural side. That makes them far harder to kill. When I said you could take down a weak alpha, I meant a really weak one. And even then, it would take you a lot of effort to kill him, unless you poison him, of course. Allison crossed her arms, but there was a spark of defiance in her eyes. Maybe, but this is just me after a few hours as a fairy. Once I train, once I master my wind and electricity, I'm sure I'll be able to beat a strong alpha werewolf. Her voice softened as curiosity crept in. By the way, how does a fairy become an alpha? Jacob thought for a moment before answering. Probably by gaining a deep understanding of your element. Once that happens, the transformation comes naturally. Allison nodded, her expression thoughtful. I see, Jacob said. Now, can you try making a real wind attack? Something powerful. Allison tilted her head. Like what? A giant spinning arrow. Jacob replied. I can do it with my fire ability to show you if you want, but we are in a forest, and I'd rather not start a fire and burn it down. Allison said, You don't need to show me. I think I can do it. She turned toward some huge boulders. She raised both hands above her head, palms facing each other, as if cradling an invisible sphere. She closed her eyes, shutting out everything but the feel of the wind. It started as a whisper, a gentle breeze that coiled around her arms, stirring her green hair. Then it grew. The air between her palms began to shimmer with an intense, vibrant green light, pulling in more and more of the surrounding wind. Jacob watched, his draconic eyes seeing not just the light, but the currents of power she was desperately trying to bind together. He saw the strain on her face, the slight tremble in her arms. Allison's world narrowed to the vortex between her hands. Every ounce of her will, every bit of her remaining energy, she poured into constructing the arrow. She imagined it, long, sleek, and deadly. She forced it to spin, compressing the raging winds tighter and tighter, layering them into a corkscrew pattern. A sharp, throbbing pain began to bloom behind her eyes, a warning sign of her energy being drained too fast. Her breath came in short, ragged gasps, but she didn't stop. She pushed past the pain, past the exhaustion. With a final cry of effort, the weapon completed itself. It hovered above her hands, a magnificent and terrifying arrow of solidified, screaming wind. She screamed, thrusting her hands forward. The giant spinning arrow launched. It didn't fly so much as devour the space between her and the boulders. The moment it left her hands, the energy sustaining it vanished from her body. The vibrant green light around her snuffed out. She was panting, her head pounding, her body utterly spent as she shifted back to her human form. She collapsed and was about to hit the ground. Jacob surged forward, catching her before she hit the ground, cradling her against his chest. The arrow struck the first boulder. There was no explosion, not at first. There was a piercing shriek of stone being violently drilled. The arrow didn't even slow down. It passed through the first boulder, splitting it apart, and tore through the second one, exploding it from the inside out, and impacted the third, larger than the others. It drilled into its heart before the immense power finally destabilized, unleashing its remaining energy and causing a loud explosion. The ground quaked, a shockwave ripping through the trees, scattering leaves like a hurricane. Dust and rubble filled the clearing. Jacob shielded Allison with his body to protect her weakened body from the explosion. When the chaos faded, silence returned. The cluster of boulders was gone. In its place was a huge crater filled with rubble. Jacob looked at Allison in his arms, who was still watching the crater with wide eyes, not believing she just did that. All right, I take it back. This attack could definitely kill Peter. Allison managed a weak laugh, still panting. Maybe, but I doubt he'll just stand still while I finish making it. Jacob said, All right, it's time to get out of here. Allison groaned, slumping against him. You'll have to carry me. I have no energy left. I can't even stand. Jacob gave a small smile. Then how about we eat first? Food might help you regain some energy. Her eyes lit up faintly despite her exhaustion. Okay, I wouldn't say no to food. Honestly, even though we just had dinner, I feel like I could eat a cow right now. Jacob carried her to a fallen tree, settling her onto the mossy trunk. With a flick of his hand, he pulled a small collapsible table from his pocket dimension. a reward from one of his daily sign-ins. A moment later, he set down burgers, fries, and cans of Coke. They ate quietly into the stars. When they finished, Jacob stowed everything away, then crouched in front of her. "Climb on," he said. Allison wrapped her arms around his neck, resting her cheek against him. He rose easily, her weight nothing to him, and started walking toward the direction of her home. She closed her eyes, a small, tired smile tugging at her lips, and within moments, her breathing slowed, her body relaxing as she drifted into light sleep. 15 minutes later, the silence of the woods shattered. Gunfire echoed through the night, sharp and unmistakable. Jacob froze mid-step, his eyes narrowing. His supernatural hearing locked onto the direction instantly. Without a word, he shifted course, breaking into a run. Allison stirred awake at the sudden movement, blinking. "Jay, what's happening?" "I don't know," Jacob answered. "I heard gunshots and followed the sound. We're about to arrive." Jacob, with Allison on his back, ran toward the sound of the gunfire. He was moving with a predator's silence through the forest. As they got closer, the gunfire grew louder, punctuated by screams of terror and a deep, enraged roar that was anything but animal. It was a sound of pure, primal fury. They reached a ridge overlooking a small clearing. A campfire cast a flickering, hellish light on a scene of carnage. Tents were shredded. The earth was dyed red with blood. The scene was nightmare fuel. A black bear, massive and unnatural, stood on its hind legs. Its eyes burned with a malevolent crimson light. It swiped a paw the size of a dinner plate at a man who raised his rifle as a shield. The blow didn't just knock him down, it tore him in half. His torso landed yards from his legs, his intestines unfurling in a slick, dark coil onto the forest floor. Allison's hand flew to her mouth, a choked gasp escaping her lips. Another foolish man emptied his assault rifle into the bear's side. Blood and fur flew, and the bear roared in pain but didn't stop or run away. Instead, it turned and lunged at the man, its jaws closing around the man's head. The man screamed, and the bear shook its head violently and tore the man's head off, throwing it aside to the ground. Another man was on the ground near the angry bear, trying to crawl away, one hand clutching his stomach, the other dragging him through the dirt. A glistening rope of his own viscera trailed behind him like a grotesque leash. He made it 10 feet before the bear caught up with him and with its giant paw crushed the man's head, making his brain scatter around. The rest of the men rained bullets on the bear. Its dark fur was blood-soaked from a dozen wounds. But even so, the bullets didn't do too much damage to it. Its wounds were healing with an unnatural, visible speed. "Jay." Allison was covering her mouth with her hand, her voice weak. "Put me down. I feel like I'm about to vomit." Jacob gently lowered her. She turned, stumbled a few steps away, and retched violently into the bushes, her body convulsing. She wiped her mouth with a trembling hand, her face pale as moonlight. She turned back to him, her eyes wide with horror and a desperate need for justice. "Go help them," she pleaded, grabbing his arm. "Help who?" Jacob's voice was low, his gaze still fixed on the clearing, analytical and cold. "The men, of course," Allison said, gesturing at the slaughter. "Before that thing kills them all." Jacob slowly shook his head. "Allison, use your fairy eyes. Look behind those tents. Tell me what you see." Confused, Allison blinked. A soft, ethereal green light emanated from her eyes, cutting through the darkness and the deceptive shadows cast by the fire. She scanned past the bloodshed, past the roaring bear and the scared men, to the edge of the clearing. There, hitched to a large truck, was a heavy iron cage, and inside, huddled together in terror, were 2 small children. Her blood ran cold. "What's going on?" she whispered, the horror in her voice shifting from revulsion to a deeper, more righteous anger. "I think the men are the bad guys," Jacob murmured. "That bear is a shapeshifter, a woman, and those kids in the cage are her kids. I can tell by their scent. I think the men took her children." Allison stared, piecing things together. The cage, the armed men, the mother's berserker rage. So the men are hunters? Is this what hunters do? I don't know if they're hunters or not, Jacob said, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. But let's find out. There's one of them hiding over there. He pointed to the far side of the clearing. Behind that huge tree. He's the smart one. He's using a high-caliber rifle, waiting for a clean shot. Let's catch him and read his memories. He turned and offered his back. Get on. Allison shook her head. It's okay. I can't make another giant wind arrow yet, but my strength is back. I can use my physical strength and some weak wind attacks. Jacob gave a sharp nod, his golden eyes glinting in the dark. Okay, stay close to me. They sneaked toward the man. The man was a silhouette against a thick tree, his body tensed, his eye pressed firmly against the scope of his high-powered rifle. He was muttering to himself, "Come on, turn your head, you bitch. Just a little more." He never saw them coming. Jacob's hand shot out and clamped around the back of the man's neck, lifting him off the ground like a kitten. The man let out a strangled yelp of surprise and terror, but the sound was swallowed by the gunfire and the bear's enraged roars from the clearing. Allison watched, her heart hammering against her chest. How are you going to read his memories? She whispered. I have never read anyone's memories before. Jacob admitted. I don't even know if I can. But werewolves and other shifters can do it by inserting their claws into the base of the skull. I'm going to try. He shook the man slightly. I'm not sure what will happen to you after this, but I don't feel sorry about it. You don't look like a good person. Before the man could scream again, Jacob's free hand shifted. His fingernails elongated into wicked, obsidian-black claws. With a swift, brutal motion, he drove the tips into the back of the man's neck. The man stiffened, a silent, gaping scream on his face. His eyes rolled back into his head, showing the whites. Jacob closed his own eyes, his brow furrowed in concentration, and he managed to read the man's memories. Jacob saw in the man's memories that the group was a hunter group that called themselves the Harvesters. They traveled the country, tracking supernatural creatures. Jacob saw a werewolf begging them for his life before they opened his throat and began butchering him for parts on a bloody plastic sheet. A young dryad, her connection to her tree severed, sold weeping to a shadowy buyer. A beautiful selkie, a mermaid-like shifter that was repeatedly raped by the very men in this clearing before she was finally killed and processed. Jacob saw hidden auctions that sell anything supernatural, from organs to live creatures. He saw the clinical discussion of the man and his group about which organs fetched the highest price. He saw them raping beautiful shapeshifters before killing them or selling them alive. And he saw how they hunted kids and even babies for customers who ordered them. Finally, Jacob saw this mission. He saw them staking out the werebear's house, waiting until she left her home. Then they murdered her human husband, shot him in the head while he was trying to protect his children. Then they captured her 2 crying children, threw them into the iron cage like luggage, and drove to Beacon Hills, thinking they were far enough, and decided to rest in the Beacon Hills Preserve. Jacob ripped his claws out and dropped the man. The man collapsed to the ground, twitching and convulsing, drool leaking from his open mouth. Anger and pure rage twisted Jacob's features. Allison saw the absolute fury in his eyes. Jay? Before she could finish, Jacob lifted his foot and brought it down on the convulsing man's head. There was a sickening, wet crunch, and the man's head exploded like a watermelon. Allison spun around and vomited again. She wiped her mouth with a trembling hand, shock in her eyes. She turned back to him, her voice a shaky whisper. Why? Why did you kill him? Jacob turned to look at her, his face still a mask of primordial rage. I'm sorry you saw that. But that man and his friends, they are real beasts. Why, I saw in his memories, Allison, terrible stuff. Unspeakable. I can show you through our telepathic link, but you have to brace yourself. It's very bad, but you need to see it. You need to know the reality of our world. Scared but resolved, Allison nodded. Show me. Jacob stepped closer, the fury in his eyes softening into a grim sorrow. He placed his forehead against hers, and the memories flooded into her mind. She saw it all. The slaughterhouse, the victim's despair, the heinous, unspeakable crimes committed by the group that calls themselves the Harvesters. First came the shock, cold and numbing. Then a disgust so profound it made her stomach clench again. And finally, rising like a tidal wave, a rage so pure, unlike anything she felt before. Her body started shaking. She understood why Jacob was angry and why he killed the man. Jacob broke the connection, looking into her now hardened eyes. "Do you understand why I killed him?" Allison's voice was cold, laced with a fury that mirrored his own. "I understand. Scum like him and his group don't deserve to live. So what are we going to do with the rest of them?" Jacob's glowing eyes turned toward the clearing, where the werebear mother was still fighting, though she was slowing, her healing factor struggling to keep up with the barrage of bullets. "I'll kill them all, of course," he said, his voice flat and final. Just then, one of the surviving men, seeing his comrades falling, made a desperate dash for the cage. He leveled his pistol point-blank at the two terrified children inside. "Hey, bitch!" he screamed, his voice cracking with panic. "Stop!" The forest air, thick with the smell of blood and gunpowder, seemed to freeze. The werebear's massive form shuddered, and she stopped. She looked at the man, pointing his gun at her children, rage and anger in her eyes, but she didn't dare to move. The leader of the group was a fat man. He was standing a little far from the battlefield, scared of the werebear and ready to ditch his group and run away at any time. But seeing the werebear stopped and didn't dare to move, he laughed and said, "Now, if you don't want your children to die, shift back to human form." The rage in her red eyes warring with a mother's primal fear, she sighed and shifted. Her huge bear form shrank, her fur receding, her body reshaping until a naked, tall, beautiful brunette woman stood in the clearing. She was covered in blood and dirt, her body heaving with ragged breaths, her red eyes fixed on the gun pointed at her children. The fat leader laughed with a disgusting sound. "See, boys, even animals know what's good for them." He didn't even care about his dead men, or even glance at their torn remains. His surviving lackeys, emboldened now that the immediate threat was gone, let out crude whistles and jeers. The man near the cage, still aiming at the children, licked his lips. "Boss, let me enjoy her after you." "Sure thing." The fat man chuckled, his piggish eyes roaming over the woman's naked body. "But looking at that, you'll be waiting a few hours." He started walking toward her, a swagger in his step. "I'm not even going to poison you or tie you up, sweetheart. I want you to serve me willingly while your kids watch. Makes it more fun." Jacob and Allison watched the scene from the shadows in anger as the hunters threatened the woman with her children's lives. Allison's hands clenched in a fist so tight her nails bit into her palms. "What a bunch of scum," she hissed, her voice trembling with fury. "All right." Jacob's voice was low. "You stay here. I'm going to take care of them," starting with the guy pointing the gun at the children. Allison hesitated for only a second, her eyes locking onto the sniper rifle lying next to the headless corpse. A grim resolve settled over her. "No," she said, her voice steadier now. "Leave him to me." Jacob said, "No, I don't want you going out there. They have guns, and you're not back at your full strength yet." "I'm not going to show myself," she said, already moving to pick up the heavy rifle. The metal was cold and familiar in her hands. "My dad taught me how to shoot all kinds of guns. It's been 2 years, but from this distance, I'm sure I can blow his head off." She worked by feel, her fairy-enhanced eyes checking the chamber and the scope in the dim light. The memory of her father's patient coaching pushed back the nausea and fear. Jacob watched her for a tense moment, then said, "All right, I'm counting on you. Stay here after you kill him, and don't come out until I've killed all of them." Allison nodded, bringing the rifle up to her shoulder and settling into a prone position, using a fallen log for support. She leaned forward, her eye finding the scope. The world narrowed to a circle of glass and crosshairs. She felt Jacob getting close to her, then a soft brush of his lips against her temple. Then he started walking toward the clearing. "Be careful," she whispered, her focus never leaving the scope. "You too," he said. In the clearing, the fat man was steps away from the werebear woman, an obscene smile on his face. The man who was pointing his gun at the children was watching with a smirk, his posture relaxed. Jacob shifted, his claws extended. Black scales covered his entire body, except his face and hands. He didn't let his horns appear. Then he walked out from the darkness and walked toward the werebear woman, holding a bathrobe he took from his pocket dimension. The fat man and his thugs stared, weapons half raised, at the teen shapeshifter with glowing golden eyes emerging from the tree line. "Stop right there, you little shit." The fat man's voice was a gravelly threat. "Or we will shoot you." Jacob didn't care about them. He just kept walking toward the woman. While the hunters didn't feel anything from Jacob, the woman, on the other hand, was trembling. She felt fear when she looked at Jacob, a primal fear that made her forget all her rage. The fat man turned to one of his goons and said, "Shoot him." The man shot Jacob in the chest, but the bullet hit Jacob's chest like hitting iron. Sparks flew as the bullet shattered when it penetrated Jacob's hoodie and hit his dragon scales underneath. Jacob didn't even feel the bullet. He looked at the man and raised his hand, pointing a finger at the man. Then a small ball of lightning appeared at the tip of Jacob's finger and shot faster than a bullet toward the man, penetrating his head and making a burned hole in his forehead, dropping him dead. Jacob's glowing eyes locked onto the fat man. His voice was a low, chilling calm. "Be patient. I will deal with you soon." The man saw the bullet didn't even wound Jacob and how Jacob killed his man. He took an involuntary step back, his confidence shattering. Jacob arrived next to the woman, offering her the bathrobe. "Here, cover yourself." The woman flinched and took a step away from Jacob in fear. Jacob threw the bathrobe at her. "Don't be scared of me. I mean you no harm." Seeing Jacob helping the woman, the fat guy stopped trembling and smirked. But he wasn't confident of catching Jacob. He just wanted him to leave. He said, "Kid, leave or I will kill her kids." Allison took a deep, steadying breath, let half of it out, and held it. Her fingers settled on the trigger. "Squeeze, don't pull." Her father's voice echoed in her mind. The crosshairs found their mark, centering on the gunman's head. She squeezed. The sound of the rifle was deafening in the relative quiet forest, like a sharp, violent thunderclap that ripped through the night. The gunman's head snapped backward. 1 second, he was standing. The next, he was collapsing like a sack of meat, his body slumping against the iron cage before sliding to the ground, leaving a dark smear on the metal. The sound of the shot froze everyone in the clearing. The fat man's head turned slowly, his smug smirk shattering into confusion, then raw terror, as he stared at his lifeless man, slumped against the cage. His remaining men spun around, weapons raised, searching frantically for the new threat. Just then, Jacob attacked. The first hunter died before he could even turn his rifle around, his throat torn out by a casual swipe of a claw. The second managed to get off a wild, panicked burst of automatic fire that ricocheted harmlessly off Jacob's scaled forearm before Jacob grabbed his head and twisted. The sickening sound of snapping bone echoed in the clearing. Chaos erupted, but it was a short-lived chaos. The men weren't hunters anymore. They were prey, and Jacob was the hunter, and he was moving too fast for them to even react. There were 8 remaining men. Jacob ripped the heads off 2 of them, tore 3 clean in half, and plucked the beating hearts from 2 others, leaving only the fat man alive. Jacob walked toward him, and the man started backing away in fear while emptying his gun into Jacob's chest. But the bullets did nothing. One struck Jacob's forehead. It left only a fading red mark that vanished in less than a second. The fat man fell to the ground, scrambling backward through the dirt in fear. "What kind of monster are you?" Jacob caught up to him and without a word inserted his claws into the back of the man's neck and started reading his memories. When he was done, he threw the man at the woman's feet and said, "He is all yours." The man, despite Jacob reading his memories, didn't lose consciousness or anything. Although he was dizzy and confused from the mental violation, he was still sane. The woman looked at Jacob, her voice steady but cold. "Can you hold this for me, please?" She tossed the bathrobe back to him. "I don't want to ruin it with this pig's blood." Jacob caught the robe and watched as the woman walked to the man, and with her claws started peeling his skin and killing him slowly while he begged for mercy and screamed like a pig. After the woman was done, She went to the water tank the hunters were using and took a shower. She came back to Jacob, took the robe, and wore it, then went to the cage. She freed her children, pulling them into a tight hug before breaking down into heavy, wrenching sobs. Allison walked from her hidden place and came to Jacob's side. "What did you see in that man's memories?" Jacob said, "More horrible things." Allison sighed. "I don't think I can sleep tonight. I wish I could spend the night with you." Jacob said, "Me too. I don't feel like spending the night alone. After all I just did and saw. I might have looked cruel killing those guys, but now that my rage is gone, I feel sick and kind of disgusted with myself right now." "I know how you feel," Allison whispered. "I kill a man too. How about we go to Lydia and spend the night with her? You can tell your parents that you're at Lydia's house, and they wouldn't say anything." Jacob suggested. "Yes, we can do that," Allison said softly. "I really don't want to spend the night alone in my room." Jacob said, "All right, let me get rid of these bodies first, then we'll go." The woman approached with her children. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to imagine what would have happened if you hadn't shown up." "You're welcome," Jacob replied. "Take one of their cars and leave with your kids." The woman hesitated, then asked, "Can I ask, what kind of creature are you? I've never felt fear like I felt when you appeared." Jacob shook his head. "I can't tell you that. It wouldn't do any of us any good." She nodded, understanding. "I see. Thank you again for your help, both of you." Jacob nodded at her, and the woman turned around, loaded her children into a truck, and drove away, leaving the nightmare behind. Jacob looked at Allison. "Stay here. I'm going to burn the bodies." Allison nodded, and Jacob gathered all the bodies together. After taking a bank card and another card from the fat man, he burned the bodies, the cars, the tents, and everything else to ash, except the guns, of course. He stored those in his pocket dimension. He took off his clothes and burned them too, took a quick shower with some water from his pocket dimension, and changed into new clothes. After that, Allison and Jacob left the forest using their super speed and headed toward Lydia's house. After arriving at Lydia's house, Jacob climbed through the window, after giving Lydia a quick telepathic warning, while Allison knocked on the front door. Natalie, Lydia's mom, opened it with a warm smile. "Allison, are you here for Lydia?" "Good evening," Allison said, smiling politely. "Yes, I'm here for a sleepover. I hope you don't mind." "Of course not," Natalie replied. "Come on in. Lydia's upstairs in her room." Allison thanked her and headed upstairs. When she opened Lydia's door, she found Jacob and Lydia kissing. Rolling her eyes, she pulled out her phone and called her mom, letting her know she was spending the night at Lydia's. As expected, Victoria asked to speak with Natalie, just to confirm. Allison went back downstairs, handed the phone over, then returned once the moms had spoken. Inside Lydia's room, Jacob was stretched out on the bed. Lydia locked the door. He said, his voice low, "I don't want your mom walking in and finding me here. I really don't want any drama tonight. My mom doesn't barge into my room." Lydia replied with a shrug. "But better safe than sorry, I guess." She got up and locked the door. A few minutes later, Allison and Lydia were lying on either side of Jacob, both of them hugging him. Lydia glanced between them. "So, are you two going to tell me what's going on?" Jacob said, "Believe me, Lydia, you don't want to know." "I do," she insisted, leaning closer. "Tell me." Jacob sighed. "Are you sure?" "I killed some people tonight." Lydia sat up straight. "What?" "I killed a man too," Allison added quietly. Lydia blinked, her shock only growing. "Now I really want to know." Jacob exhaled heavily. "As you wish. But don't blame me if you can't sleep afterward." He pressed his forehead to hers, sharing everything through their telepathic link. The fight in the woods, the shape-shifting bear, the kids in the cage, the harvester's crimes. When he pulled away, Lydia's face was pale. She hugged him tightly, shivering. "I can't believe people would do such horrible things for money. I'm glad you helped that woman, and I'm glad you killed those bastards. But," she shuddered, "I don't think I'll be able to sleep now." Allison said softly, "Jay warned you, but you wouldn't listen. I needed to see it." Lydia said firmly, her voice trembling but resolute. "I needed to understand why you two killed people. And you should have taken me with you. Even if I couldn't help, Don't leave me out of things. Jacob shook his head. It wasn't planned. We were just passing by, then heard gunshots. That's how it happened. Lydia frowned. And what were you doing in the woods anyway? Oh, and Allison, why were your eyes glowing green in Jacob's memories? Allison smiled faintly. That's because I'm not just human anymore. I'm something called a wind fairy. Lydia said. What? How did that happen? Allison smirked. Jake turned me into one. Lydia asked. Ow! Allison tilted her head. Should I tell her, or leave it as a surprise? Jacob gave a small shrug. Tell her. She'll find out in a few days anyway. Allison raised a brow. A few days? Don't you plan to do it with her tomorrow? Jacob said. Probably not. I'm not in the mood. Not for at least a day or two. Lydia blinked. Wait, did you two finally sleep together? Allison said. Yes, we did. Lydia rolled across Jacob and leaned in close to Allison, eyes gleaming with curiosity. Tell me everything. There's nothing to tell. Allison replied. We just did it. Lydia narrowed her eyes. Was he good? I mean, we're going to spend the rest of our lives with him, so please tell me he is good. A slow smile spread across Allison's face. He's very good. I'm still numb down there. Lydia gasped dramatically. Then tell me details. Don't be shy. There really isn't much more to say. Allison replied. We went back to the mansion, and we were at it for hours straight. I had to stop because I literally couldn't keep going. Ugh, you're boring. I need details. Lydia pouted. Allison smirked. I don't remember any details. I was too busy enjoying myself. Fine. Then at least tell me how he turned you into a fairy. Allison said. Jay told me that when a woman becomes his mate, he can pass on a bloodline to her. 3 bloodlines chose me. Vampire, elf, and wind fairy. I chose the fairy. And now, she smiled. I'm really strong. She shifted into her fairy form and told Lydia about her powers. Lydia's eyes widened. That's amazing. Then she turned to Jacob, her excitement sparking. Can I have powers like hers? Jacob shook his head. You'll definitely have powers, but not like hers. Then what kind will I get? She pressed. I don't know. Jacob admitted. We'll find out after we sleep together. Lydia huffed but nodded. Fine. Her gaze shifted, and she noticed the ring on Allison's hand. Where's my ring? Jacob sat up slightly. I was going to give you one after but... He pulled a spatial ring from his pocket dimension, identical to Allison's, and held it out. Here, this is yours. Lydia crossed her arms. Well, you can keep it until we actually do it. Allison rolled her eyes. If you're expecting some romantic gesture or a proposal, forget it. Jay is an unromantic idiot. And believe me, you really want to take that ring from him. Is it magical? Lydia asked curiously. Yes, Allison said. Lydia slipped it on and studied it. It's beautiful, but I don't feel anything. Drop a little blood on it. Jacob instructed. She pricked her finger, and the moment her blood touched the ring, it bonded with her. Knowledge of its abilities flooded her mind. Her face lit up, and without hesitation, she jumped on top of Jacob, kissing him hard. I want to do it with you right now. Jacob gently pushed her back to the side. His expression was haunted. Not tonight. I can still hear the screams of the people I killed. I can still smell their fear, their blood, when I was tearing them apart. Lydia stroked his cheek. Then let's do it to distract you from thinking about all that. Jacob shook his head. No, I don't trust myself right now. I might get violent, and besides... He glanced at Allison. Allison is here. It's not happening tonight. With that, he rolled Lydia over to Allison's side and closed his eyes. Now you two talk. I want to get some sleep. He closed his eyes, letting Lydia and Allison whisper to each other. Sleep, however, wouldn't come. I was so happy being in this new world, he thought, but I didn't really consider that I'd have to kill people. Although I killed that monster in the woods before, but that was different. The worst part is that I killed those people tonight without mercy, and I kind of enjoyed it a little bit. If not for the fact that I felt joy in killing them only because they were bad people, I would be freaking out right now. He let out a long sigh. Well, I just have to get used to it and make sure I don't turn into a murdering maniac. I plan to go to that auction in Las Vegas on Saturday, the one I saw in the fat man's memories, and destroy it. I'll take the money from the people who attend the auction and the ones who organize it, so I'll probably have to kill some more people. But for now, I should try to sleep. After a while, exhaustion claimed him. But around 4 a.m., Jacob jolted awake, sweat dampening his forehead. He had dreamed of losing control, of killing Stiles and Scott with his claws. He turned his head left and right. Lydia and Allison were curled against him on either side, arms draped over his chest, breathing softly. He shook his head with a weary sigh, whispering to Allison, "You can't sleep." One of Allison's eyes cracked open. "I slept," she whispered, "but I woke up after having a nightmare that my parents were evil hunters like the ones we met tonight." "Don't worry. They're not." "I know," Allison said, "but I still couldn't go back to sleep. You know we're going to kill more bad people in the future, right?" Jacob asked gently. Allison nodded. "I know, and I won't hesitate when the time comes." Jacob kissed the top of her head. "That's my girl. And let's make this deal. Tonight is the only night we lose sleep over killing scumbags. This is our reality now. We need to accept it sooner rather than later." "Deal," Allison said firmly. "We shouldn't waste sympathy on monsters like them." Jacob smirked. "I'm in the mood again. Want to sneak into Lydia's bathroom." Allison snorted and pinched his side. "Go back to sleep, you pervert." He chuckled softly, and soon her breathing evened out as she drifted back to sleep. Jacob wrapped his arms tighter around both girls and finally managed to slip back into slumber too. Early in the morning, a knock sounded on Lydia's door. "Girls, wake up. You'll be late for school," Natalie called. Jacob stirred first, nudging Lydia and Allison awake. "Lydia, are you awake?" Natalie asked again through the door. Lydia rubbed her eyes and answered sleepily. "Yes, Mom, we're up. I made you breakfast. I'm heading to work. Love you." "Love you too, Mom," Lydia called back. Moments later, they heard Natalie leave the house, the sound of her car fading into the distance. Jacob kissed both girls and got out of bed. "All right, girls, I need to head home. And I'm not coming to school today." Allison yawned and stretched. "Why not? I need to be at the mansion." Jacob explained. "That tin can at home ordered a bunch of materials that will arrive today. I can't let him go outside to receive them himself. He'd probably scare the delivery guy half to death." Lydia smirked and leaned against him. "Remember, I'm coming over after school, so you better be ready to satisfy me. And don't even think about saying you're not in the mood." Jacob chuckled, pulled her close, and kissed her deeply before letting go. "Trust me, I'll be more than ready." Lydia rolled her eyes with a smile and disappeared into the bathroom. Allison, still lounging in bed, glanced at Jacob. "Why don't you have breakfast with us before you go?" Jacob shrugged. "Sure." The two of them went downstairs. Allison looked at the modest breakfast Natalie had left on the table and said, "Do you have any baked goods in that pocket dimension of yours?" Jacob grinned. "I've got plenty." "Then take some out. This breakfast is nice, but it's too little." Jacob pulled out a variety of baked goods: croissants, muffins, cookies, brownies, cinnamon rolls, along with juice. By the time Lydia came down, the table was overflowing. The three of them sat together, laughing and eating until they were satisfied. Afterward, they left Lydia's house. The girls drove toward Allison's, while Jacob split off, running at supernatural speed back to his mansion. At Allison's house, she hesitated before stepping out of the car. Her eyes lingered on the front door. "I don't know if my parents set up a new mountain ash barrier or not. I'm nervous." Lydia leaned toward her from the driver's seat. "You'll be fine, right? They won't hurt you, even if they find out you're a supernatural creature." "Of course not," Allison said quickly. "They'd never hurt me. I just don't want them to know yet." "Then good luck," Lydia said softly. Allison took a deep breath, walked to her house, and carefully opened the front door. She stepped inside. Nothing. There was no barrier. Relief washed over her. She turned back toward Lydia, gave her a thumbs up, and said telepathically, "There's no barrier. Wait for me to change my clothes and grab my bag. Then I'll be right back." She reached out telepathically to Jacob as well. "Jay, I just got home. No barrier." Jacob responded, "Oh, right. I forgot about that. That's one less problem, I guess." Allison smiled faintly. "All right, talk to you later." With his speed, It didn't take Jacob long to return to his mansion. Cogman was tending to the garden when Jacob showed up. The butler straightened, dusted off his gloves, and walked over. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning," Jacob replied. "Where did you spend the night, sir?" Cogman asked. "At Lydia's," Jacob said simply. Then he gestured toward the house. "Now let's go inside. We have a mission on Saturday, and I'm sure you're going to love it." Cogman followed him into the mansion. "Should I prepare breakfast first?" Jacob sank onto the couch in the living room and shook his head. "No, I already ate." "Sit down." Cogman took a seat. Jacob retrieved 2 cards from his pocket dimension and handed one to Cogman. "This is a bank card I took from some very evil people yesterday. It has 4 million on it. I need you to make the money legally ours." "Can you do that?" Cogman examined the card with interest. "It will take some work, but yes, it can be done." "Good." Jacob held up the second card. "Now, this one is more important. It's an invitation card to an illegal auction in Las Vegas. They don't just sell herbs. They sell organs, women, live and dead supernatural creatures. Everything." Cogman tilted his head. "And what exactly are we going to do there, sir?" Jacob's expression turned cold. "We're going to take all their money, kill a few of them, and destroy the auction. And you're allowed to do whatever you want to them." A spark of excitement lit Cogman's mechanical gaze. "May I rip their heads off, sir? Crush their windpipes? Break their bones and—" Jacob cut him off with a wave. "You could do whatever you want to them. They're just a bunch of monsters who don't deserve to live." Cogman smiled darkly. "Excellent. By the way, sir, how did you get these 2 cards?" Jacob told him what had happened in the woods the night before. As he finished the story, the rumble of a truck stopping at the gate reached his ears. "I think your materials just arrived," Jacob said, rising. "Stay here. I'll bring them in." He went to the front gate, instructed the delivery men to drive inside, and had them unload everything in front of the mansion. As the first truck left, another one arrived, this time delivering a piano before driving away. Cogman went outside. His eyes lit up the moment he saw the piano. He immediately moved the piano inside, set it up, and began playing Bach Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Jacob simply listened until the final note rang out, then clapped. "That was actually good." Cogman bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir. The piano still needs some tuning, but I'll handle that once I finish constructing my new skin, along with the computers and phones." "Speaking of that," Jacob said, "can you make a mask for me too? Preferably one that lets me look like whoever I want." Cogman said, "That's easy, sir, but you'll need to tell me the faces you want. I'll design a phone app to help you control the mask and switch between them at will." Jacob thought for a moment. "All right, start with Heath Ledger's Joker. I want to go to that auction as the Joker. Then add a few celebrities and random faces. Oh, and make extra masks if you can, in case the girls ever need them." Cogman asked, "So I should make 3 masks, sir?" "No," Jacob said, shaking his head. "Make more if possible. I'm going to have more mates in the future." Cogman asked, "More mates? You mean more wives, sir?" Jacob's lips curled into a smirk. "Why? Do you think it's weird, or do you think I'm a scumbag?" Cogman's response was immediate. "I don't find it weird, but you're most definitely a scumbag, sir." Jacob chuckled. "Didn't your former masters have harems?" Cogman replied, "No, having more than one wife was illegal. However, some had mistresses, but it never ended well for them." Jacob leaned forward with interest. "What happened to them?" Cogman recounted. "One was stabbed nearly to death by one of his mistresses. Another was poisoned, though he survived. A third almost had his penis cut off by his wife when she discovered his affair. I must say, sir, I'm quite curious to see what will happen to you." "Nothing will happen to me," Jacob said confidently. "I already told Lydia and Allison that I'll have more wives." "I hope you're right, sir." Cogman said, "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get busy. You likely will not hear from me for a day or 2. "All right, go." Cogman went outside the mansion and took the boxes of materials to the guest house. Jacob went upstairs, flopped onto his bed, and quickly fell asleep. He woke at 2 p.m., stretching with a yawn. That was a good nap. And the best part is, I didn't have any more nightmares about killing those people. He smirked. System sign-in. Daily sign-in successful. Rewards obtained. Krabby Patty times 40. SpongeBob SquarePants, the most legendary burger in Bikini Bottom. Smith & Wesson Model 500, a powerful .500 Magnum revolver with a box of 100 rounds. Winnie the Pooh plush toy, extra large. Jacob scanned the rewards and grinned. A gun again, huh? I'll test it in the backyard. But first, I want to try the Krabby Patty. He pulled one from his pocket dimension, took a big bite, and chewed thoughtfully. This is definitely not meat, but for a vegan burger, it's really good. He stood up and headed for the backyard, munching on more Krabby Patties as he went. Once outside, he reached into his pocket dimension, pulling out the Smith & Wesson Model 500. The massive revolver gleamed in the sunlight, its sheer weight and craftsmanship making his pulse quicken. Jacob turned it over in his hands, admiring the steel frame and the oversized cylinder. He loaded a round with a satisfying click, raised the gun, and aimed at a nearby tree. With a squeeze of the trigger, the revolver thundered. The sound was deafening, echoing across the property like a cannon blast. The tree shuddered violently. The .500 Magnum round tore through its bark, blasting out a fist-sized chunk of wood and leaving a gaping crater. Splinters sprayed everywhere, and the trunk creaked under the sheer force. Jacob lowered the revolver, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Wow, that's really loud and powerful. I love this gun. Then Jacob thought, should I try it on my hand? I need to see if a powerful gun like this can penetrate my skin. After a moment of consideration, he decided, I'll do it. Even if the bullet gets through, I'll heal quickly anyway. He loaded another round, pointed the gun at his palm, and after taking a deep breath, pulled the trigger. The bullet hit his palm with tremendous force. Although it didn't penetrate his skin, the impact hurt more than he'd expected. A sharp, jarring pain shot up his arm. "Eh, that really hurt," Jacob yelled, shaking his hand. He looked at his palm and saw a dark red mark that was already fading, but much slower than the mark left by the Glock. It didn't break the skin, he thought, but the bruise is healing slower than the one from the Glock, and the pain is so much worse. I can still feel it deep in the bones and muscles of my hand. Jacob loaded the gun and stowed it back in his pocket dimension. He walked back into the mansion, had a big lunch, and then settled in the living room to watch anime while he waited for Lydia. At 4 p.m., Lydia arrived. She found him in the living room, walked over, and gave him a kiss. "Hey you, where's Cogman?" she asked. "He's busy making his skin. Did anything interesting happen at school?" Jacob replied. Lydia shrugged. "No, nothing much. Do you want to get something to eat?" He offered. "No, I already had lunch at school with Allison." She said, "Then what do you want to do today?" Lydia smirked and settled onto his lap. "I want to do you." Jacob kissed her and smiled against her lips. "Let's go upstairs, then." He carried her up, their lips locked together. He shouldered the bedroom door open, kicked it closed behind them, and they tumbled onto the bed, breathless from kissing. Jacob looked in her eyes, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I love you. I love you too," Lydia stammered. Jacob raised an eyebrow. "You sound nervous. What's wrong? This isn't like you." She bit her lip, glancing away. "It's just, I'm not a virgin like Allison, and I'm afraid you'll dislike me or something," she confessed. Jacob cupped her cheek and kissed her deeply. "Lydia, I don't care about that. If I did, I never would have gotten close to you in the first place. Now, stop overthinking and let's just enjoy ourselves." Relief flickered in her eyes, quickly replaced by a mischievous smirk. She pushed him down onto the bed and climbed on top of him. "Good. Then I'll be in charge." Jacob grinned up at her. "Sure. Let's see how long you can last." With that, they melted into another kiss. Soon, clothes were discarded, and then they lost themselves in each other, starting a lovemaking session that lasted for a few hours. Jacob and Lydia lay naked, tangled together in bed after hours of lovemaking. Jacob smirked in satisfaction, while Lydia, too exhausted to move, had already fallen asleep on his chest, her breath slow and steady. Jacob absent-mindedly stroked her hair as the familiar translucent system screen appeared before his eyes. "Congratulations, host. You have consummated your bond with Lydia Martin. Your strength will now begin to grow faster than before, and you may grant Lydia abilities and bloodlines rewarded by the system. Rewards for consummating the bond with Lydia Martin. Storm Call ability, The Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim, the ability to summon a devastating thunderstorm. Lightning bolts strike random enemies within a vast area for a limited time. Activation. The host can unleash a lightning-infused roar toward the sky to trigger the storm. Limitation. Cannot be used indoors or underground. Use with caution around allies, because they can also be hit. Jake Lonergan's Alien Wrist Blaster. Cowboys and aliens, a bracelet that bonds to the host's forearm. It can turn into a high-powered alien energy blaster. Activation. Responds to the host's mental commands once bonded. Cannot be removed or used by others unless the host wills it. Arc Reactor. MCU, a miniature clean energy source capable of powering a small city. Jacob was happy with the rewards and thought, not bad at all. Storm Call is insanely strong. I remember how devastating it was in the game, but I need to test how it looks in real life. The alien gun. I know it can blow a hole straight through a man, but I wonder how it will work against supernatural creatures. And the arc reactor. I'll just hand that over to Command. He'll find a use for it. Show me Lydia's rewards. Jacob mentally commanded the system. Please select one of the following bloodlines for your mate. 1. Gorgon bloodline. Lifespan. Ageless, long-lived. Affinity. Petrification and serpentine control. Abilities. Shape-shifting, petrifying gaze, requires eye contact. Serpent communication and control. Venomous bite. Living snake hair, poison immunity. Standard shifter abilities. 2. Fire Kitsune bloodline. Lifespan. Ageless, long-lived. Affinity. Fire element. Abilities. Shape-shifting, create and control fire. Enhanced intelligence and cunning. Standard shifter abilities. Naturally skilled in weapons and martial arts. 3. Silver Banshee bloodline, DC. Lifespan. Ageless, long-lived. Affinity. Sound manipulation, spiritual power. Abilities. Sonic Scream. Unleash a destructive wave of concussive force capable of shattering steel, stunning enemies, and causing internal damage. Superhuman physique. Accelerated healing. Advanced sound wave manipulation. Flight. Aura of dread. Project an overwhelming sense of supernatural fear to weaken enemies' resolve. Short-range teleportation. Spiritual possession. Possess the bodies of others. Jacob read through the options carefully. His lips curved into a grin. There's really only one good choice here. The Silver Banshee. Some versions of her are even strong enough to challenge Superman. And this version the system is offering seems like the most powerful one. Lydia is about to become terrifying. He asked the system in his mind. By the way, if I remember correctly, Silver Banshee's powers came from a curse. Will Lydia be cursed too? No, host. Lydia will not be under any curse. Jacob let out a quiet breath. Good. That's a relief. He glanced at Lydia, sleeping peacefully against his chest. For a moment he thought about waking her, but seeing how deeply she slept, he decided against it. System, merge the ability Storm Call into my body. Are you sure, host? Yes. Jacob didn't feel anything different, just a faint flicker of energy before another message appeared. Ability has been successfully merged. After that, Jacob absently stroked Lydia's hair, lost in thought. After I deal with that auction on Saturday, maybe I should go after Malia, or maybe I should wait until Kate and Peter fight each other. That should happen in a month or two. That gives me more time with Allison and Lydia to strengthen our bond before adding another mate. As for Kate and Peter, I won't interfere. If I stop them, I might lose an event sign-in, maybe even a quest sign-in. So let those two idiots tear each other apart. He remembered the alien weapon. Reaching into his pocket dimension, he pulled it out. It looked like a black braided leather bracelet, but it was actually metal. Well, this looks a lot cooler than I expected. I thought it'd look like the one from a movie. He slipped the bracelet onto his wrist. Instantly, he felt a bond with him. With just a thought, the bracelet unfolded, transforming into a sleek alien wrist blaster, complete with a holographic targeting display. Jacob grinned, testing it, switching it back and forth between bracelet and weapon a few times before finally letting it rest in its bracelet form. He pulled Lydia tighter into his arms, kissed the top of her head, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. 2 hours later, he felt Lydia moving and woke up. Her eyes fluttered open, meeting his. Jacob smiled. "So, should we continue?" Lydia's sleepiness vanished instantly. She sat up straight, flustered. "No, no way. I can't do it anymore." Jacob chuckled. "Come on. You've got super healing. You should be fine now after you slept for a couple of hours." She said, "Even if I don't feel pain, I'm still completely numb down there. I can't feel a thing. You'll just have to wait until tomorrow." She leaned in and kissed him playfully. But Allison wasn't lying. "You really are good." Jacob raised a brow. "I seem to remember someone doubting if I was even a man, even calling me a eunuch." Lydia blinked innocently. "Oh, really? Who would ever say that?" Jacob smirked, rolling her over and giving her a playful smack on her bare backside. "You did, and my pride still hasn't forgotten. Dragons don't take insults lightly." He leaned over her, his eyes glowing golden. "So maybe I should punish you until you beg for mercy." Lydia laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Then I'll beg right now. I'm sorry, okay? Just let me rest tonight. You can punish me tomorrow." Jacob chuckled, pressing a deep kiss to her lips before pulling away. "Fine. You're lucky I'm in a forgiving mood. Now let's go take a shower. We're all sticky." He scooped her up effortlessly and carried her to the bathroom. After a taking shower together, they returned to the bedroom, cleaned up the mess, and settled back onto the bed, warm and comfortable in each other's arms. Then, Jacob told Lydia about the 3 bloodlines in detail. When he was done, his tone grew serious. "I think you should take the Silver Banshee bloodline. Even though you're already a Banshee, this one is different and much stronger." Lydia nodded thoughtfully. "I've read about Banshees in the bestiary. They can only predict mortal danger and use weak sound-based attacks. This is way better." "So?" Jacob asked, raising a brow. "Will you choose the Silver Banshee bloodline?" "Of course," Lydia replied without hesitation. "I don't like snakes, so Gorgon's out. Kitsune is tempting, but no. The Silver Banshee bloodline is perfect for me. It'll make me strong enough to keep up with you, Mr. Dragon." Jacob smirked. "By the way, before I pass the bloodline to you, I should tell you, there's a character in DC Comics called Silver Banshee. She has similar powers to the bloodline I'm giving you." "Really? Show me." Jacob grabbed his laptop from the nightstand, and together they read articles and watched videos about Silver Banshee. After about an hour, Lydia leaned back against the pillows. "It looks like the bloodline you're offering me has all the abilities from every version of Silver Banshee combined." Jacob nodded. "Yeah, you could say it's the perfect version." Lydia's gaze softened as she looked at him. She didn't say anything, just studied him with an expression that made him raise a brow. "What?" he asked, half smiling. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Nothing." Lydia's lips curved into a tender smile. "You're just magical." Jacob smirked and tapped his chest. "And handsome, too. You couldn't find a better-looking man than me, even if you searched the whole multiverse." "You're lucky, Lydia." She shook her head, amused, before kissing him. "You're right. Allison and I really are lucky to have you. Now, you can pass the bloodline to me." "What do I need to do?" Jacob said. "Nothing. Just turn around." Lydia turned her back to him, and he placed his palm against her back. System merged the Silver Banshee bloodline into Lydia's body. "Are you sure, host?" "Yes." A surge of energy pulsed from Jacob's hand into Lydia. Her body grew warm, every cell igniting as the power wove itself into her essence. After 5 minutes, a new prompt appeared in Jacob's vision. "You may remove your hand now, host. The transformation will take approximately 1 hour to complete." Jacob removed his hand, watching closely. Lydia's eyes were closed, her expression peaceful. No pain, only calm. Satisfied, he let her finish the transformation. He slipped on his headphones, opened his laptop, and started watching anime. An hour later, Lydia stirred. Her once red hair had turned snow white, her skin pale as porcelain. When her eyes opened, they glowed with an eerie, radiant white light. Jacob felt her move and looked over. He was surprised. He hadn't expected such a drastic change, but surprise quickly melted into admiration. "You look gorgeous." "Really?" Lydia frowned, brushing a strand of her new white hair between her fingers. "My skin looks like I've never seen sunlight, and my hair is white." Jacob smirked. "Your eyes are glowing white, too." Her brows shot up. "What? Let me see." She hurried across the room to the floor-to-ceiling mirror. Her reflection stared back at her. She tilted her head, studying her new look. "Okay, I'll admit, the white hair isn't bad. But the glowing white eyes? With this pale skin? I look like a ghost." Jacob walked up behind her, slid his arms around her waist, and met her gaze through the mirror. "Then you're the most beautiful ghost I've ever seen. How about we celebrate properly? HM? How about we do it again, my beautiful ghost?" Lydia rolled her glowing eyes. "No, you have to wait until tomorrow." Jacob chuckled. "Allison did it with me again, right after she got her powers." "You're weak, Lydia." Lydia shot him a look over her shoulder. "Say whatever you want. We're not doing anything tonight. And I doubt Allison did half the crazy stuff we did." Jacob grinned. "True, you'll have to teach her." He gave her a playful spank and said, "Well, since we're not doing anything, let's go eat. I'm starving." Lydia shifted back to her normal appearance and stretched. "I'm starving too, and after we eat, I want to test my powers. We'll head to the woods after dinner." They went downstairs into the kitchen. Jacob pulled an impressive spread of cooked dishes from his pocket dimension, filling the table with steaming plates. They sat together, eating, laughing, and teasing one another. When they were done, they changed clothes, exchanged a look of excitement, and headed out toward the dark woods. Jacob and Lydia raced into the woods using their super speed. After 10 minutes, they arrived deep within the forest and stopped at the spot where Allison had tried her wind powers. Lydia looked at the deep crater left by Allison's giant wind arrow. "What happened here?" "Allison happened," Jacob said. "She tried out her powers here." Lydia whistled softly. "I didn't think she was that strong." Jacob said, "She is, and she'll get even stronger in the future. And so will you." He then started moving away from her. "You can try your powers now." "What are you doing?" Lydia asked. "Getting away from you, of course," he said with a grin. "I don't want my ears to bleed." Lydia rolled her eyes. "I won't scream your way. You'll be fine. I have super hearing, remember? Even if you don't scream at me, it's still going to be too loud. Anyway, go ahead. Try your powers." Lydia nodded and turned away from Jacob. She took a deep breath and let out a scream. But there was no powerful sound wave, no destructive force. It was just a scream. She looked back at Jacob, disappointed. "Well, nothing happened." Jacob smiled. "Don't just scream. You need to use the power inside you. Focus. Feel it, then unleash it." She nodded, closing her eyes. After a few moments, her hair turned white and her skin grew pale. She opened her eyes, which were now glowing white, opened her mouth, and let out a controlled note. It wasn't a scream this time, but a focused hum. The air in front of her shimmered, visible like a heat haze. A nearby sapling shuddered, its leaves vibrating violently before several tore free and whipped away. "Good," Jacob encouraged. "Now try to add more power." He pointed to a half-rotted log. "Try to destroy that." Lydia focused, her brow furrowed. She hummed again, a higher pitch this time. A cone of sonic force shot out, struck the log, and shattered it. The blast also gouged a chunk of earth out of the ground next to it, sending dirt flying. Lydia jumped with excitement. "That was so cool." Jacob laughed. "Yeah, it was, but I want to see what your full scream can do." He pointed to a large pine tree. "Try to destroy that tree." "Isn't that a little irresponsible?" Lydia asked. "I don't want to destroy a tree just to try my powers. I'll take it with us and use it as firewood if you can take it down." Jacob offered. Lydia nodded and turned toward the towering pine. She took a deep breath, planted her feet, and screamed. It was not a sound of fear, but of raw, destructive power. A visible wave of distorted silver energy erupted from her mouth, tearing through the air with a deafening roar. It hit the pine tree dead on. The huge trunk didn't just break. It exploded into a cloud of splinters and sap. The force didn't stop there. ripping through the undergrowth and tearing a furrow in the forest floor for a good 15 meters before its energy finally dissipated. Lydia panted, her throat feeling strangely cool and thrumming with energy. She looked at the devastation with a mix of horror and awe. I didn't think my scream would be this powerful. Jacob walked over to her. And it will get stronger in the future. Lydia looked at him. Are your ears okay? Yes, the scream was loud, but it didn't hurt me. He assured her. By the way, Lydia added, I can manipulate sound waves, too. It's not a strong ability yet, but maybe it will be useful or even as strong as my scream in the future. Show me, Jacob said. She focused, manipulating the existing sound around them. She dampened the rustle of the leaves to an eerie silence, then amplified the beat of a moth's wings until it sounded like a drum in the night. So you can control the volume of sound around you, Jacob observed. She confirmed, yes, I can either amplify sounds or completely silence them, creating zones of perfect silence. You could also try to use echolocation, like bats and dolphins. He suggested. Lydia nodded thoughtfully. I need to do some research about sound. Let's forget about sound for now. Jacob said, Can you fly? Lydia focused for a couple of minutes, then sighed. No, I can't. Well, you will when you get stronger. How about teleportation? Let me see, Lydia said. She focused again, and this time she disappeared, reappearing 2 meters from her original place. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she turned around and started vomiting. Jacob rushed to her side, patting her back. After she was done, he asked, What's wrong? Lydia wiped her mouth. When I teleported, I felt the world spinning around me. You'll get used to it the more you teleport. He said gently. Then I'll try to get used to it right now, she declared. For the next hour, Jacob sat on the fallen tree and watched her practice. She blinked in and out of existence around the clearing like a ghost until the slight nausea finally faded. She appeared next to Jacob, exhausted, and sat in his lap. She shifted back to her normal form. That was fun. I don't feel disoriented when I teleport anymore, but I'm really exhausted mentally. Jacob took some chocolate from his pocket dimension and offered it to her. Do you want some? She smiled, took the chocolate, and ate it. She looked at him. I didn't thank you for giving me these cool powers, did I? Jacob kissed her forehead. You don't have to. The smile on your face when you were using your powers is all the thanks I need. The more powerful you and Allison are, the happier I am, because it means you can protect yourselves when I'm not around. Lydia smiled, kissed him, and didn't say anything. She just lay in his lap and ate the chocolate, a smile never leaving her lips. They stayed like that for half an hour. Then Jacob asked, Can you still use your sonic scream tonight? Or do you need to wait until tomorrow? I think I can still use it multiple times. Lydia said, I was just exhausted from teleportation because it was my first time. It drains my mental strength. Jacob nodded. Then use your scream to attack me. Lydia's eyes went wide. What? No, I'm not going to scream at you. It's dangerous. He kissed her. I'll be fine. I'm a dragon. Remember? My skin is tougher than the pine tree. He walked to the center of the clearing and turned to face her, a confident smile on his face. All right, do it. Don't hold back. She hesitated, her hands trembling. The thought of directing the destructive force at him made her feel ill. Seeing her like that, Jacob smiled softly. Lydia, trust me. Seeing the unwavering confidence in his eyes, she finally nodded. She shifted back into her banshee form, took a deep, then unleashed her sonic scream toward him. The sound wave hit Jacob with immense force. It was far greater than he'd anticipated. It lifted him off his feet and hurled him backward through the air. He sailed 6 meters before flipping in the air and landing on his feet, his boots skidding to a halt in the dirt. He shook his head to clear the ringing. A slow trickle of blood escaped from each of his ears, tracing a path down his neck. He wiped it away with the back of his hand, a wide, genuine grin spreading across his face. That was strong and annoyingly loud. He said, his ears already healing. Lydia stared, her hand flying to her mouth in shock and guilt. Jay, your ears. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have listened to you. Are you? Don't worry, my ears are already healed. He interrupted, still grinning. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. Are you sure you're okay? Yes, I'm sure, Jacob said, holding her. Lydia sighed in relief. Then let's go back home. Jacob nodded. All right. He walked a few meters away from her and looked at the sky. A mischievous grin spread across his face. But first, I want to try my new ability. Lydia looked at him curiously. What ability? Instead of answering, Jacob tilted his head back, took a deep breath, and unleashed a roar toward the sky. But it wasn't a normal roar. It was crackling with raw, blue-white energy that shot from his mouth like a reverse lightning bolt, vanishing into the clouds above. For a second, nothing happened. Lydia raised an eyebrow. Was something supposed to? She was cut off as the world suddenly dimmed. The moon and stars disappeared. Thick, dark clouds swirled into existence directly above them with unnatural speed. A deep, ominous rumble shook the very air, and then the sky simply opened up. Heavy, cold rain poured down, soaking them both in an instant. Jay, what did you do? Lydia shrieked. Cool, right? He yelled back, his voice full of excitement as he spread his arms, embracing the chaos he had just created. A blinding flash of light and an earth-shattering boom answered him. A lightning bolt struck a tall oak tree 50 feet away, splintering it into kindling with a sound like a cannon shot. Lydia jumped, a small yelp escaping her. Jay! Another bolt struck closer, 20 feet away this time, electrifying the air and leaving the smell of ozone and burnt earth. That's when Lydia felt a strange tingling across her scalp. Despite being utterly soaked, her hair began to rise slowly, each strand standing on end and waving around her head. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Jacob, her expression a perfect mix of utter disbelief and horror. Seeing her hair defy gravity and logic, Jacob's triumphant grin vanished, replaced by sudden panic. Crap, I forgot it can hit my allies. He muttered to himself. In a flash, he lunged forward, scooped her into his arms, and broke into a sprint just as another lightning bolt scorched the earth where she had been standing. You idiot! Lydia screamed, clutching his neck for dear life as the world blurred around them. Are you trying to kill us both? I didn't think it was going to be this strong. He yelled back, leaping over a fallen log as another bolt exploded behind them. And Lydia, still cradled in his arms, glared up at him, her electrified hair making her look even more furious. And what? And I won't be hit. And I'm also immune to lightning. He admitted with a wince, dodging a sizzling strike that hit a puddle they just run through. So I'm the only one who's going to die then? Lydia shrieked, her voice trembling with a mixture of terror and rage. No, you won't. I won't let that happen, he said, zigzagging through the forest like a pinball. Besides, you're super strong now. A little lightning would just give you a bad hair day and a tingle. And even if you get hurt, you'd heal in minutes. Another searing bolt came down, close enough that the heat washed over them. Enraged and scared, Lydia did the only thing she could think of. She leaned forward and chomped down on Jacob's chest. Ow! Ouch! Lydia, that's my nipple. Let go! Let go! He yelped, stumbling mid-sprint. She released him and said, Why is the storm following us? That's how it works. He explained, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. It's an attack meant to kill all the enemies around me. I just forgot that it can affect my allies too. Another near miss sent a shower of dirt and grass into the air. But it's attacking you too. Lydia yelled, No, it's not. The lightning is aimed at you, not me. He corrected, skidding around a tree. It's just that since I'm the guy currently holding the target, I'm also a target myself. Then Jacob used all of his super speed, becoming a blur as he tried to outrun the crazy storm he had created. Lydia screamed, not in terror anymore, but in pure rage. When we get out of this, I'm going to kill you, you moron. Noted. Jacob yelled back with a laugh as he dodged another lightning strike. But first, let's get out of here before you get zapped. After running for a few minutes, Jacob finally managed to get away from the storm. Not because of his speed, but because the duration of storm call had ended. He stopped and looked back at the storm as it faded quickly into nothingness. So storm call in real life is very different from the game. He thought. In the game, it only lasts for 60 seconds, but just now it went on for nearly 10 minutes, and it followed me wherever I ran. Not only that, it drained a ton of my energy. I think I can only use it maybe 3 times before I'll need to rest and recover. His thoughts were interrupted by Lydia, who stirred in his arms. "Are we safe now?" she asked. Jacob looked down at her and gave a reassuring nod. "Yes, the storm's over." But then her eyes suddenly glowed white, her hair shifting to snowy white as she transformed into her banshee form. She glared at him with pure fury. Jacob blinked, then smiled sheepishly. "Oops." He quickly set her down and bolted. "Get back here," Lydia shouted, unleashing a sonic scream that blasted the ground where Jacob had just been standing. He rolled aside, dodging, and kept sprinting. "I'm sorry," he yelled back over his shoulder. "I forgot the storm attacks everyone around me." "You idiot," Lydia screamed, chasing him through the woods. "Do you have any idea how scared I was? I thought I was going to die." She let out another scream, the shockwave tearing apart a tree trunk as Jacob dove to the side again. "I said I'm sorry, and that storm of yours destroyed a lot of trees. Didn't you think about that?" Lydia roared. "You could have burned the entire forest down, you idiot." Jacob finally skidded to a stop and turned to face her, smirking despite the ringing in his ears. "I won't do it again. Can you forgive me?" Lydia narrowed her glowing eyes. "Let me hit you once, and then I'll forgive you." Jacob relaxed, grinning. "That's it? Fine. Go ahead, punch me as hard as you can. I won't resist." A sly smile curved Lydia's lips. Who said anything about punching? She took a deep breath, and before Jacob could react, she unleashed a devastating sonic scream. The force of it sent him flying backward 10 meters before he crashed onto the ground, tumbling for several more meters before finally skidding to a stop on the asphalt road. He lay there groaning for a moment before slowly sitting up, blood trickling from his ears, though they were already healing. He wiped it away and muttered, "Ugh, that was annoying." Before he could stand, he sensed people nearby. Turning his head, he saw Derek, Peter, Scott, and Stiles standing by Stiles' Jeep and Derek's car, all staring at him with shocked expressions. They walked closer. Scott frowned. "Where did you just come from? And what was that loud scream just now?" Peter smirked. "Kid, what kind of creature kicked your ass? Need some help?" Seeing Peter laughing at him, Jacob felt a strong urge to beat him. But hearing what he said, Jacob mirrored Peter's smirk. "Sure, man. I'd appreciate the help. I'm fighting a ghost, and I can't beat her. She's all yours now." At that moment, Lydia stepped out of the woods, still in her banshee form. Before she revealed herself fully, Jacob quickly spoke to her telepathically. "Lydia, don't shift back yet." "Why?" she asked. "Because I want you to beat Peter. He is standing next to me right now, so act like a ghost and beat his ass. And remember, don't let him get close to you. Although you are strong, he is still an alpha werewolf. He is stronger than you physically. And love? Don't hold back." A slow smirk spread across Lydia's pale face. "All right, this is going to be fun." Stiles noticed the smug grin on Jacob's face. He edged closer and whispered, "What are you up to?" Jacob put on an innocent look. "Nothing. Peter was kind enough to offer his help, and I accepted. Now let's step aside and let him handle the ghost." Jacob casually moved away from Peter, and Stiles and Scott quickly followed. Derek hesitated for a moment, eyeing Peter, then silently joined Jacob's side as well. Jacob clapped his hands together. "All right, guys, let's cheer for Peter." Peter narrowed his eyes at Jacob. "Hey, kid, I said I'd help you fight, not take on whatever this thing is by myself." Jacob tilted his head, smirking. "What's wrong, Peter? You scared?" Peter growled, his eyes flashing red. "I'm not scared, but I'm not stupid either. If you couldn't beat that ghost, then I sure as hell can't. You're stronger than me." Jacob chuckled. "Oops, too late. She's here." Peter spun toward the woods, only for Lydia to suddenly teleport, appearing out of thin air just 3 meters in front of him. Stiles saw Lydia but didn't recognize her. He screamed, "Yeah, it's really a ghost. She just appeared out of nowhere." He froze, staring at her pale skin, flowing white hair, and glowing eyes. "But She's really beautiful. Jacob smirked. She is, isn't she? Stiles blinked, suspicious. Wait, it's not that she's stronger than you, and you couldn't beat her, is it? You let her beat you because she's beautiful. Jacob shrugged. You could say that. Peter stepped forward, eyes glowing crimson. Who are you? And what do you want? Lydia didn't answer. Instead, she opened her mouth and released a low hum. The sound grew louder and sharper, vibrating in the air. Peter's face twisted in pain as dizziness washed over him. He clutched his ears, groaning before dropping to his knees, his head throbbing. Seizing the opportunity, Lydia teleported beside him and delivered a vicious kick to his face, breaking his nose and sending him flying. He crashed to the ground several meters away before coming to a stop. She grinned and sent a thought to Jacob. How was that? Jacob replied, Good, but don't get close to him again. He could have hurt you with a swipe of his claws the moment you appeared. And even though you kicked him, you didn't do much damage. Look, his nose is already healed. Now he'll be ready for you next time. Lydia's glowing eyes locked on Peter as he got up, partially shifting, his face twisted with rage. I'll kill you, he snarled. She said to Jacob, All right, I won't get close to him again. Peter lunged at her with blinding speed, but Lydia only smirked. Before he could even raise a claw, she unleashed a full sonic scream. The devastating wave hit him square in the chest, launching him backwards more than 15 meters. He smashed against the asphalt, tumbling violently before skidding to a stop. The scream ruptured his eardrums, leaving blood trickling from his ears. One of his shoulders had dislocated, and when he struggled to stand, blood trickled from his nose and mouth, clear signs of internal damage. He wiped it away with the back of his hand, growling low in his throat before shifting fully into his monstrous alpha form. With a roar, he lunged at Lydia, his speed a blur, far faster than before. He crossed the distance in the blink of an eye, claws slashing through the space where she had been standing. But Lydia was already gone. She teleported behind him and unleashed another sonic scream. The force struck his back, sending him flying several meters before he crashed to the ground and tumbled violently. He staggered to his feet, ears bleeding, a fresh trickle of blood seeping from his mouth. He shook his head, disoriented, and looked at her with newfound wariness. Lydia smirked. If you're not going to attack, then I will. Stiles' jaw dropped. That's Lydia's voice. Scott nodded. Yeah, I knew it was her the moment I caught her scent. Stiles turned to glare at him. What did I say about telling me about supernatural stuff? Scott looked genuinely confused. What did you say? I don't remember. I told you to tell me as soon as you know something. Stiles shouted. So you should have told me it was Lydia the moment you realized it was her. Scott shrugged. I'll tell you next time. If I remember, that is. Now shut up, and let's watch the fight. Lydia thought quickly. I can only teleport about 6 meters. I'll need to get close to him first. She sprinted toward Peter. Anticipating a physical attack, he braced himself. But at the last second, she teleported, appearing at his side. Another sonic scream blasted him off his feet. While he was still airborne, she teleported again, meeting his trajectory to hit him with a second scream. She repeated this twice more, a brutal cycle of teleportation and sonic assault, never letting him recover. Finally, she let him fall. He hit the ground with a sickening thud, one arm bent at a wrong angle, blood streaming from his nose, mouth, and ears. But Lydia wasn't done. She teleported high above him, her white hair glowing in the moonlight, and drew in a deep breath. With all her might, she released a scream so powerful it slammed Peter into the dirt, embedding him into the ground and leaving a smoking crater around his body. His tough alpha hide peeled away in places, exposing raw muscle beneath, and one of his eyes burst with a sickening pop. Satisfied, Lydia teleported back beside Jacob, wrapped her arms around him, and smiled. I beat an alpha. Jacob kissed her proudly. That's my girl. I'm proud of you, but I'm exhausted and starving. Lydia sighed. Then let's go home and have a feast. Jacob said with a grin. Then, telepathically, he added with a wink. And after that, since we fought, let's have some make-up sex. I promise I'll work hard to earn your forgiveness. Lydia rolled her eyes and replied in his head, no more sex tonight. I just want to eat and sleep. And I already forgave you. Jacob sighed in disappointment, then turned to Derek. Hey, Derek, if you want revenge for your sister, now's your chance. He's vulnerable and can't fight back. Derek stared at Peter's broken form, his jaw tight, but finally shook his head. No, I don't want to kill him. He just lost control that night. Jacob smirked. That's a lie, but fine. It's your business. Just know you'll never get an opportunity like this again. He turned to Stiles and Scott. Why are you guys here anyway? Scott answered. We were heading to your place, but then we saw a strange storm in the woods. We stopped to check it out. Derek and Peter were passing by and stopped to watch too. I see, Jacob muttered. Just then, Peter staggered to his feet. His wounds were already closing as his regeneration kicked in. He glared at Lydia, growling. You're going to pay for that, you little bitch. The insult made Jacob's eyes glow golden with fury. Lydia shifted back to her normal form and, playing it up, clung to Jacob's arm with a pout. Jay, that monster called me a bitch. Jacob kissed her forehead, his voice calm but deadly. Go wait by Stiles' Jeep, love. This is going to get a little dangerous. He glanced at Scott and Stiles. You guys should go with her. Stiles swallowed nervously. Peter is so screwed. Yeah, Jacob's angry. Scott agreed. They followed Lydia to the Jeep a few meters away. Even Derek quietly followed, not wanting to get caught in what was about to happen. Peter recognized Lydia the moment she shifted back into her normal self, the red-haired girl he'd seen with Jacob before. His anger evaporated, replaced by cold dread as he realized the grave mistake he'd just made. One look at Jacob's face confirmed it was a fatal error. Jacob's expression was calm. He walked toward Peter, his voice low and cold. You and Lydia had a fair fight. I didn't interfere, and even if you had won, I wouldn't have held it against you. But you called my woman a bitch and showed killing intent toward her. I don't like that at all. Now you have to pay. I know it's not fair, Peter, but life isn't fair. So, good luck surviving. The air around Jacob shifted violently. He unleashed his fire ability, and a circular shockwave of blistering heat erupted from his body. Peter instinctively staggered back, while Lydia, Scott, Stiles, and Derek shielded their faces from the scorching wind. Flames roared to life, igniting across Jacob's body and spiraling outward like a living inferno. He lifted his hand, and flames gathered above his palm, roaring as they shaped into a giant, serpentine form. The fire snake was lifelike, complete with scales, glowing eyes, and sharp fangs. It hissed and lunged at Peter. Peter wasn't stupid enough to stand his ground. He bolted at full speed, darting through the trees. But no matter how fast he ran, the fire serpent hunted him relentlessly, its body stretching and coiling through the forest like a predator. Within seconds, it caught him, its massive jaws opening wide before swallowing him whole. Peter's scream tore through the night as he burned, his monstrous form thrashing inside the serpent's belly of fire. Jacob sighed. If I kill him now, I might lose the reward when he fights Kate later. With a wave of his hand, the serpent disintegrated into embers, vanishing into the air. What remained was Peter, skin charred and blackened, his body trembling but alive. Jacob's voice cut through the silence. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but this is the last time I spare your life. He turned away, the fire around his body extinguishing without a single scorch mark on his clothes. He walked calmly back toward Lydia and the others. Lydia rushed forward, hugging him tightly. That was awesome. Jacob smirked. Am I going to get a reward? She winked at him. Maybe. Really? He said, his face lighting up. Then get on my back. We're going home right now. Before Lydia could answer, Stiles blurted. Wait, hold on. Jacob shot him a glare. What do you want, idiot? Believe it or not, if you delay my happiness, I'll cook you just like Peter. Stiles, unfazed by the threat, said, We need to talk. It's important. Jacob sighed, irritated. Fine. You drive us home, but you'll say what you need to say before we reach my house. Jacob and Lydia got into the back seats of the Jeep, while Scott and Stiles got in the front. Stiles started the engine and drove toward Jacob's mansion, leaving Derek rooted in place, still trying to process what he had just witnessed and wondering what kind of creature Jacob truly was. Once the Jeep's taillights disappeared into the night, Derek sighed and turned his gaze to Peter, who was still writhing and screaming in pain as his burned skin slowly healed. For a fleeting moment, he thought about killing Peter and taking the Alpha Spark for himself. His fists clenched, but then he shook his head. Not yet, he thought. We just found out that the pendant worn by the woman who burned my family is now being worn by Jacob's girlfriend, Allison Argent. That means the woman who gave it to her is definitely Kate. And I have no idea how that monster Jacob feels about Kate. So, let Peter kill Kate first. After that, I'll kill him. Stiles was driving the Jeep toward Jacob's mansion with Jacob, Lydia, and Scott inside. Jacob leaned back in his seat and said, "So, Stiles, what did you want to talk to me about?" Stiles tightened his grip on the wheel. Derek told us what Harris confessed after he and Peter interrogated him. Jacob raised an eyebrow. What did he say? Stiles glanced at him in the mirror. Harris said that 6 years ago, he met a woman at a bar. She asked him all kinds of questions about chemistry, how to melt locks, dissolve bodies, start fires, and get away with arson. Lydia's eyes darkened. And that idiot actually answered her questions? Scott nodded grimly. Yes, he did. And a week later, the Hale house burned down. Jacob asked, "And what does all of this have to do with me?" Scott hesitated, then said, "The woman wore a pendant. A wolf pendant, the same one Allison wears." Lydia scoffed. So what? Do you really think Allison was the woman who talked to Harris 6 years ago? She was only 10 back then. Stiles shook his head. Not Allison. Her mom or her aunt. Jacob stated flatly. It was her aunt. She's the one who gave Allison that pendant. Scott asked, "So what are we going to do?" Jacob shrugged. Nothing. I'll tell Allison the truth, and that's it. I'm not going to save Kate, and I'm not going to help Peter or Derek kill her either. Stiles argued. But Kate's a murderer. Jacob said, Sure, Kate is a murderer, but I'm not the law, Stiles. The Hale family has nothing to do with me, so I'm not going to interfere. And even if I did, it would be to help Allison if she wants to save her aunt. Stiles stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious? You'd help her? She killed children, Jacob. Jacob sighed. I don't like what she did either. But I'm not some hero, Stiles. My only concern is how Allison is going to feel about all of this. Whether she decides to help Kate or let her die, I will stand by her side. Scott frowned. But saving Kate isn't fair to Derek, is it? He lost his entire family because of her. Jacob smirked coldly. I don't really care. People die every day, Scott. Should I go around saving them all too? Even if Kate is evil, Allison considers her sister. So, as long as Kate doesn't get on my bad side, I won't go after her. Stiles muttered. You're really cold-blooded, you know that. Jacob chuckled. As long as Allison and Lydia are happy and safe, I don't give a damn about the rest of the world. Well, except you two idiots, of course. If you ever need my help, I'll be there. Lydia smiled, hugged Jacob's arm, and rested her head on his shoulder. Stiles pressed further. And if you could save people who have nothing to do with you, would you do it or not? Jacob shrugged. If I can, I will. I'm not completely heartless. But I suggest you two stay out of the fight between Kate and Peter. You saw what Derek did tonight. He had the chance to take revenge for his sister when Peter couldn't even fight, but he didn't. Scott frowned. I don't know what he was thinking. That was his chance. Jacob's eyes narrowed. Peter and Derek have been part of the supernatural world their whole lives. They're schemers, both of them. They'll use each other as long as it benefits them. And when one becomes useless, the other won't hesitate to kill him. So be careful around them. Don't end up being their pawns. All right, we'll be careful, Stiles said. He then looked at Lydia in the rearview mirror. She was leaning on Jacob's shoulder with her eyes closed and a smile on her lips. Now, what happened to Lydia? How did she turn into a ghost? And how can she use those powerful sound attacks and teleport? Jacob smirked. Lydia's a banshee. She awakened her powers tonight. Do you know the Silver Banshee from DC Comics? Stiles' eyes widened. Yes, I do. What? Jacob said. Well, Lydia has the same powers as her. Stiles gawked. No way. Some versions of Silver Banshee are insanely powerful. What's next? You're going to tell us you're Superman. Jacob chuckled. I'm not Superman, Stiles. I'm something better. Stiles said, I don't know if you're better than Superman or not, but I have to admit, you were cool when you were controlling fire earlier. Jacob smirked wider. Thanks. I already know I'm cool, but it's nice to hear it from others. Stiles groaned. Damn it. I should have kept my mouth shut. I forgot you're a narcissist. Scott chimed in, changing the subject. By the way, Jacob, since you and Lydia were in the woods, do you know what that strange storm was? Jacob leaned back, completely straight-faced. That. No idea. I was training with Lydia, then suddenly this dark cloud showed up and started chasing us. Rain, lightning bolts, the whole deal. Personally, I think the clouds got jealous of how handsome I am and tried to kill me. Stiles and Scott both shook their heads in unison, saying nothing. Lydia, however, snorted, opened her eyes, and shot Jacob a death glare. Jacob scratched the back of his head sheepishly, then leaned in and kissed her cheek. Hey, you said you already forgave me. Stiles' jaw dropped. Wait, so you caused that storm, didn't you? Yes, it was one of my abilities, Jacob admitted. Then, with an evil smirk, he added, I'll show it to you guys if you want to see. Scott got a bad feeling and shivered. No thanks. I'm good. Jacob laughed. Come on, it'll be fun. How about tomorrow after school? Stiles shook his head furiously. Nope. I can feel it. You're up to no good. And judging by Lydia being pissed at you, that ability is probably way too dangerous. Jacob sighed dramatically. Your loss. Anyway, what happened to Harris? Did Peter kill him? Please tell me he killed him. Stiles replied. Unfortunately, no. He just scared him and told him to leave town like you ordered him to do. Jacob groaned. Too bad. A moment later, Stiles pulled the jeep to a stop. We're here. Jacob smirked. All right, losers. See you tomorrow at school. Stiles looked back at him. What? Aren't you going to invite us in? Jacob waved him off. Not tonight. Lydia, let's go. Lydia slipped out of the jeep, and Jacob followed. Without hesitation, he scooped her into his arms, jumped the iron gate with ease, and ran toward the mansion. Stiles sighed as he drove. Man, we really need to find girlfriends. Scott sighed too. Yeah, we do. But the problem is every girl in school only has eyes for Jacob. Some of them even try to get close to me just so I'll introduce them to him. Stiles groaned. Tell me about it. 2 girls came up to me this morning, laughing at my jokes. One even fixed my collar. I was so happy until I realized they were only asking where Jacob was and why he skipped school. That was really painful. Scott chuckled. I don't even get it. I mean, he's handsome, I admit, but not to the point that all the girls should be after him. Maybe it's not just his looks. Stiles said thoughtfully. Maybe it's because of what he is, like he has some natural charm or something that attracts girls to him, like a supernatural magnet. Then I shouldn't let him meet my mom. Scott said, his tone suddenly serious. Stiles smirked. Might not be the worst thing. He could protect Melissa, maybe even make her stronger. And hey, if they got married, you'd be his stepson. He'd take care of you too. Scott's eyes glowed, and with a growl, he choked Stiles and started shaking him. Violently. Stop, stop. We're gonna crash. Stiles yelled. The Jeep swerved dangerously, nearly colliding with another car before Scott released him. Stiles jerked the wheel, heart pounding, and got the Jeep back under control. Dude, I was joking. You almost killed us both. Scott's eyes faded back to normal. Don't ever joke about that again. And Stiles. What? I kind of have a bad feeling. I've already had a few nightmares about Jacob and my mom getting married and even having children. His voice cracked. And now you're telling me he has some kind of charm ability. Relax. There's no need to panic. Stiles cut in. I only said maybe he has a charm ability. I didn't say he has it for sure. Besides, he's our age. Melissa wouldn't care about him like that. And even if she felt something toward him, she'd only treat him like a son, at least until he turns 18. Scott groaned. You're not helping, Stiles. Fine, I'll shut up. Let's just listen to some music. Stiles turned on the radio. The announcer's voice crackled through the speakers. And now, let's listen to the 1970s song by Denise LaSalle called Older Woman. The song began. Musical notes? I'm an older woman musical notes. Musical Notes looking for a younger man. Musical Notes. Musical Notes don't think I can't work it. Scott growled, baring his teeth. Stiles, I'm going to kill you. Stiles, who had been dancing in his seat, quickly turned off the radio. All right, no music then. But I have to admit, things are not looking good for you, man. Even the songs on the radio. Shut up. Scott snapped. Don't talk. Just drive. Stiles smirked and kept driving, quietly enjoying Scott's misery. Meanwhile, Jacob kicked the mansion door shut behind him, ready to sprint upstairs, but Lydia, still in his arms, stopped him. Hold on. Food first. Jacob sighed, but changed course, heading to the kitchen. After they ate and cleaned up, Lydia shifted back in her banshee form, her eyes glowing. Now let's go have some fun. But we're only doing it once. That's my limit. Jacob smirked, pulling her close. All right, but how about we do it here in the kitchen, my beautiful ghost? Lydia raised an eyebrow, then smirked back. Sure, but what if Cogman walks in on us? He's busy, Jacob assured her. He won't come. And even if he does, I'll sense him before he gets close. We could just run upstairs. Don't worry. He lifted her onto the counter, their lips meeting in a hungry kiss. Clothes were discarded, and soon the kitchen became their playground. When they were done, laughing breathlessly, they headed upstairs, showered together, and finally collapsed in bed and fall asleep in each other's arms.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.